hundreds, if not thousands of people on mindset, lots of high performers. In your studies, what have you noticed, like data-wise? Are there studies that have changed the way that you thought about how humans think or how top performers think?
How so? Give me a little more context so I can go into it. Like, what are you thinking?
Like, is there surprising data or data pieces that you found about mindset and the human brain, or studies that you found interesting lately that you think are worth sharing?
I think the biggest thing is, like, I like to go into, like, the main thing that I work off is like cognitive behavioral therapy, right? And the thing that I think I've been teaching the most recently that's been like hitting the home the most for people is just basically this idea of like negativity bias, which is like we are wired to be negative. Like that is the way that it works. And so like I don't know any specific data around, you know, like successful people, unsuccessful people. But what I do know is that people inherently are negative. And there's a reason why that exists. The reason why it exists is because, you know, 10,000 years ago, 100,000 years ago, when we were going to be attacked by something, we had to be on guard and look for problems. That's all that we did. So your brain is just this problem-solving mechanism. The problem with it now is that modern day, obviously, we're not going to be like attacked by a tiger or anything like that. So our brain is constantly looking for what is wrong, and in turn, it's making problems when problems don't exist. And so the thing that I like to do is, if you have a hammer, you want to find a nail. And so if your brain is a problem-solving tool, then my goal for myself and clients that I work with, especially business owners, is bring problems to figure out every single day. Because your brain wants to do that thing. You know, it's like that's what your brain is designed to do. So people are always like, oh, how do I stop overthinking? I'm like, well, you don't stop overthinking because your brain doesn't stop thinking. Your heart, you don't want your heart to stop because it's made to beat. You don't want your lungs to stop because it's made to breathe. Your brain is made to think. And most of the time, your brain will go towards negative because it's trying to solve a problem. So if you're a business owner, one of the best things you can do is wake up in the morning and say, what are the problems that I want to solve today? And see if there's one problem that you can solve today, and then just give your brain space. Most people, and I found this consistent with myself and so many other people, work too much in their business and not on their business. Like they're so in the day-to-day. Like I've almost completely removed myself from my day-to-day, thank God, because I have a VP of operations who's helped me with that. She's process-driven, so we've removed myself, right? And so my job is to wake up in the morning, and she knows we're going to talk about problems in the morning. So we're going to see what are the problems of the day, what are the things that I need to solve for. So if I can solve for X and I'm a visionary and I know I'm a visionary, then I'm going to go, okay, what is this thing? And then I have to give myself space to just solve it. And so the thing that I find with people that I think is the biggest for business owners is like, if your brain's going to go towards the negative, towards trying to solve problems, give it problems to find. Otherwise, what it's going to do is it's going to show up and say, oh, we've got a problem. Like, you know, we didn't get as much revenue as we needed. My business is going to go out of business. What's going to happen? I'm going to end up being homeless. I'm going to have to fire my employees. Oh my God, they've got children and it creates its own version of problems versus going, I'm just going to give my brain the problems that it needs in order to get me where I want to go versus send me off down this like path of doom and gloom, which is what most business people do.
It's interesting because what they say is like, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person.
Yeah.
And this is a perfect example of that. Mm-hmm. It's like your world will get small. I have a family member that I just watch their world get smaller and smaller and smaller. Yeah. And thus somehow their problems get bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah. And so these little things that happen every single day, you know, they'll call me and say like, oh God, I can't believe the mailman's late today. And you're like, how in getting fewer problems did your problems get bigger? It's a weird phenomenon.
Right.
But that makes all the sense in the world. It's because you're not feeding the beast. And so the beast will find something to eat.
Of course.
And it will make it a problem that is probably not even there.
Yeah.
And so you get to have like negative projection or negative manifestation, essentially.
Exactly. And one of the things that's big too is don't give it too many problems a day.
How many you think?
So I read an article like 5 years ago that like changed my perception on my business. And it was about Jeff Bezos, and he only makes 3 decisions a day. And so he will sit down and he'll find problems and he'll make 3 decisions every single day, but they're like billion-dollar decisions. Versus me at that point in time, I was like, I got to do 45 things today. If every single person, and this is like a simple thing to do with your to-do list, right? Especially for business owners. Wake up, you make your to-do list, you figure out exactly what needs to be done for the day, right? Then what you do is you just circle number 1, number 2, and number 3. You take an index card, you write number 1 down, you write number 2 down, you write number 3 down, you throw your to-do list away, burn it, whatever it is you need to do, put that in your back pocket, and then only pay attention to those 3 things. And then just focus on number 1, focus on number 2 after that's done, and focus on number 3. If every single business owner got number 1 done every single day, Monday through Friday, they'd be incredibly successful at the end of this year. But the problem is they work from home, and then they're like, well, I've got to do the laundry. So they do the laundry because they just want to check shit off of their to-do list versus like, I don't want to be busy, because if you're just checking things off, that's when you get done at the end of the day and you're like, you worked your ass off, you feel like you got nothing done, right? Versus like, I want to be productive. I don't want to be busy. How do you be productive? You cross off number one, the most important thing of your day, then your second thing, and then your third thing, if you get to those. If you never get to 2, don't get to 3, no big deal. As long as you get number 1 done, I think that's what people should focus on.
Brilliant. We often, I think, also want to cross things off the to-do list that are small because it feels good. Like that endorphin response, that little bit of adrenaline that you get every time you check something off. And yet, if you're focusing on the wrong things, who cares? Which is what most people do.
So many people will do something and then add it to the to-do list and cross it off because it feels good to cross it off.
Oh, really?
Oh, all the time I hear people do this. Yes, no joke. People will be like, well, I just did this. It wasn't on my to-do list. I'm going to write it down and cross it off to make it feel like I did something.
Wow, that's bizarre.
Yeah.
We are weird little hairless apes running around trying to figure life out. I've heard you and also Jordan Peterson say, if you want to have an incredible life, you have to go through a ton of pain. Do you think you have to go through massive pain to learn anything?
I think that you can't really go through life without some sort of pain. But there's also a difference between pain and suffering. So pain is something that happens to you. Suffering is something that happened to you that you continue to bring with you every single day and kind of have it take the energy from you. So my biggest pain was my father passed away when I was 15 from being an alcoholic, and growing up with an alcoholic father and all that comes with it. Would I be where I am now if I didn't have that happen to me? I don't think so, because the reason why I do what I do now is because I went through all the things I went through. And so I found myself in a lot of suffering because of my mindset. And I know that my dad was in a lot of suffering because of his mindset, because his father killed himself when he was 12 years old and he never overcame it. And so I saw like what happened when you don't overcome your pain. And then I also saw like other people in my life that were better examples of like they overcame their pain. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to be the type of person who overcomes it. So then I started working on myself, and as I started working on myself, I got addicted to like, I want to teach this to people. I think that everybody has to go through something hard in order to become better. And so it can be that something that the universe throws all of our crap at us, or it can be that we actually seek out and try to find some suffering. So it's like, there's a principle called applied suffering, where it's like you actually go and try to figure out ways to suffer. And so it could be like, going to the gym and like forcing yourself to work out is a form of applied suffering. Doing an ice bath is like a form of applied suffering. And so I think that the main thing that pain really shows us is that pain is a stimulus for change. It's like, it is if I put my hand on a hot stove, it is my body and my brain saying something needs to change, and it needs to change immediately. For some people, a heart attack is that change, something needs to change, something needs to change immediately. A lot of very successful people that I know have been through a lot of shit. And I think there's a lot of reasons why they become successful. A lot of times people are running from something, and so they bury it in being a workaholic. That's what I did. I was working like 110 hours a week to run from my trauma with my dad, which is hard because in society, that's like the only addiction that's actually praised. Oh my God, you're making a bunch of money, you're successful, and everyone's like praising you for it. So I don't think that you have to go through it, but I do find that people who have been through a lot, usually if they end up using it for good, can actually become extremely successful from it.
There is something to this fact that you can either use your pain towards something forward progressing, or you can let it eat you alive.
Yeah.
Do you think that all entrepreneurs are emotionally fucked up in some way?
No, there might be like one or two that's not, but
I've met one.
But like, I think there's a couple of things. It's like, what I always go back to every single time is like, what's someone's relationship with their parents? And, like I used to always think in my head that in order for someone to have something as they get older that's an issue, the parent had to have screwed them up and been like an alcoholic like my father was, or talked down to them, or said, oh, I'll only love you when you achieve, which is some people where it's like, oh, my dad didn't give me attention unless I won a basketball game, and then I got his love. And so people start learning, oh, I have to achieve in order to be worthy of love. And then my best friend had the exact opposite happen, where he's super driven, super successful, but his parents are still together. They're the most in love people I've ever seen. And I'm like, where did you get fucked up? Like, where did it come from? Like, there's got to be something, right? And what he said was his parents used to always say, everybody loves him. everybody loves him. So when he was a little kid, he would always hear, oh, everybody loves him, because he was a good little kid and he was fun and all that stuff. And he developed this narrative like, everybody has to love me. And then so what he felt to himself is, I have to perform and I have to achieve in order for people to love me. So his parents are like very positively affirming to him, which you think would be a good thing. He turns it into, well, I can't show up to this place unless everybody loves me. So then he stopped going places and he started becoming more of a hermit because of that. And then he felt to himself like, well, everybody loves me. And if everybody has to love me, well, then I need to achieve. So then he developed this feeling within him of like, oh, well then in order for me to be worthy of other people's love, I need to succeed. And then he attached that to money. And so then when he didn't have money, he didn't feel like he was worthy of love. And so there's a whole, I mean, people are very, very complex. Like life is not hard. Business is not hard. All of these things are very simple, but humans, in the way that our world works together, our narrative of ourselves and how it intertwines with everything, we're just extremely complex. So like he's a great example of great childhood, great parents, very positively affirming, but even the positive affirmation ended up, messing him up in some sort of way.
You have a lot that you've talked about when it comes to, I don't think you use the word toxic people, but people that shouldn't be in your sphere. And I've heard you, and I think also Robert Greene, talk about developing a radar to detect these type of people. How do you determine who should be in your sphere, who should not, and who might be sabotaging your success or not?
So I had a friend that categorized them, and he said people basically are either they're batteries or they're vacuums. So they're either batteries where they give you energy or they're vacuums where they take energy away from you. If you're questioning whether somebody is a battery or a vacuum, they're probably a vacuum. Like if you're questioning it, you're probably, they're teetering on like taking energy from you. And so like a battery is somebody that you're around. Like there's people that I'm around, I'm sure you do it all the time with what you do, where you'll have a conversation and then an hour after they leave, you like still have energy from them being there. Even though all of that spending time with them, you should have less energy because you had speaking and you were walking around and you were doing something together. But they literally, there's like a remnant of them still being there. There's still a lot of energy from that. There's some people that are in people's lives that you talk to for like 3 minutes and you're drained for the rest of the day. And so if you just think about the person and just thinking about them makes you feel drained, they're probably somebody who's a vacuum and they're time suckers, they're time vampires, they're just taking it from you. And so it's hard because a lot of times these people who are vacuums are people's parents, they're their sisters, they're their brothers, they're people they're related to. And you're not just gonna completely get rid of them, but it's like, how do you start to spend less time with them and then replace them with other people who are better for you? I didn't even realize this until I wrote the book, when I was like, all right, changing your environment, who you surround yourself with in success. When I first moved to Austin in 2012, the guy that I moved in with already had a massive friends group. And I got here and within like a week, I had all of my best friends and I was raging Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like partying, right? It was awesome. For a couple years, it was great. And then I decided to start my own business. I started the podcast and I was like, I'm going to figure out how to make money online. And I was like, I wonder if there's any like events. And so I Googled it and I found Internet Marketing Party. So I went to Internet Marketing Party and I remember I was sitting there and the first guy I was talking to was a year younger than me and was doing $2 million a year. And I was like, you can make that much money online? Like this is like, I had no idea that this was possible. And then I started meeting other people and then I was like, you know what? I'm meeting these people. They're doing a couple 100,000. They're doing a couple million. And so then I started hanging out with them and then we would work together because being an entrepreneur, especially a solopreneur, is like very, you're just alone all the time. And so we would go to each other's houses downtown and we would work together. And then they would have a launch and I would see what their launch was. And I was like, oh my God, you made $100,000 today. I didn't realize you could make $100,000 in a day. And then what started happening was then one of them I became really close with didn't drink. So I started hanging out with him more because he was in my industry and he was doing like 5 million a year and I was at like 200,000 that time. And I was like, I'm gonna hang out with him more. And I stopped drinking and I stopped partying and I started waking up earlier. And just by being around this group of people, everything about me changed. And it wasn't like I consciously sat down and was like, I need to change this. It was just that the people that I surrounded myself with were different. And I just took on the actual, the way that they were. There's a statistic that found that if you have one friend that you're close to become obese, you have a 38% higher chance of becoming obese because we become the people we spend the most time with. And so if you're trying to change, maybe you should look at the people around you and say like, would I want to trade places with them? And if the answer is no, well, then maybe you should spend less time with them and start getting around people who you do want to trade places with.
Those statistics on the rub-off effect of both, let's call fat and fitness and also money are sort of scary when you think about it, because it's the same thing. Like there's another statistic that shows that like if you get a group of 5 people that you spend the most time with and you analyze the bank accounts of those 5 people, on average your bank account will be the same. And so what's interesting is those 5 people don't have to be from your geographic area. They don't have to be where you came up from. They don't even have to work at your company with you. It's just, it appears to be there's some contagion to both success or failure, winning or losing. Sometimes it's hard to figure out what is a negative person? Who is the negative person? Like, and what's the degree that's allowable before you're 50% less happy and 38% fatter and all of this? Do you have a way that you think about, okay, if this happens in this many situations or instances, this is a negative person, or is it the same as the vacuum?
I mean, I think the easiest way, I saw a video on it years ago, is like if you have to question whether that person's truly happy for you when you succeed at something, they're probably not the best person to spend time with. Like if you're hesitant to go tell them about something that you just succeeded with, or you're hesitant to tell them about your dreams because they want to shit on them, they're probably not the most positive person to be around. I loved watching the Olympics because as soon as somebody succeeds, they look into the crowd to find the person that they love the most, right? Like success is not fun when you're by yourself. Like we want people to succeed with and to celebrate with us. And so many people that I have found are not surrounded by anybody. If you're really questioning whether somebody would be happy for you if you brought some sort of win to them, or they would question, you know, your dreams, then they're probably someone who's not really looking out for your best interest.
I used to believe sort of a little bit like, hey, if somebody's saying that everybody around them sucks, what's likely? You might suck.
Yeah.
That might be a you thing.
Yeah. It's like the phrase where if you wake up and you meet an asshole, you just met an asshole. But if you meet assholes all day long, you're the asshole. So
it's true.
Maybe you're the negative person.
It's 100%. But I think that in this case, you know, it can be hard if you're really a builder and you're not around builders. Like not everybody gets that game.
Yeah.
You also talked a lot about habits of successful people and that some of them are replicable. What do you think that successful people do every day that other people don't?
Boring shit. I love all of the habits that people are putting online and the whole mindset shifts and habits of successful people and all of that. I do love it. Like I even said, like, I think cold plunging is great, meditating is great, and all of those things. Like those are all good and they help. But I think the most important thing that I have found from like the most successful people is they are the type of person that follows through. Like they are true to their word and they will follow through and do what they say they're going to do. I think that is probably the biggest key to the most successful people I've found, is that they follow through and they're extremely consistent of doing it day in, day out. It's so funny to me, like I've now been an entrepreneur for 19 years. I'm 38, so it's been half of my life. And like people started like, let's be entrepreneurs. Being an entrepreneur is like waking up and deciding to be punched in the face every day. Like that's literally what it is. Like it's just a challenge and a new challenge and a new challenge. It's fun for some of us. Like I think it's the most fun thing ever. I get to wake up and play a game every single day. But I think that a lot of people, they cannot stay consistent with that. And so I think that the two biggest things that I find is like they follow through and they're just consistent. And that's what it comes down to. And I remember when I was like researching a lot of stuff for my book on like willpower and how do you get yourself to follow through and take action. And I started researching like some of the most successful people and like how they became so consistent. And what I found was that they are not the type of person who just has hardcore willpower. It's that they design an environment where their willpower isn't tested. And so like, for instance, like for me, I don't have any social media on my phone anymore because I noticed that I would pick it up and I'd immediately just somehow be on Instagram. Like it was a reactionary thing. And so for the past 6 months, like I haven't had Instagram on my phone. And so I've never had TikTok on my phone, which is I've got like 600,000 followers on TikTok. I've never had it, right? So it's like, way I do it is I design my environment where I cannot be tested by this thing. So my team will come to my house, we record the stuff, my editor will take it, give it to my social media team. Every Monday we meet and we just see how everything's looking. Like, just look at the numbers as if it's anything else in a business, right? Just part of marketing. So that doesn't test my willpower. And so then if I don't have that, well, then there's less things to distract me. And if there's less things to distract me, well, then for me, it's like, okay, well, then what do I want to spend my time doing? Oh, this thing that I need to get done today. And so I think if you can, even if it's somebody who like, you know, wants to lose weight, if you design an environment where your willpower doesn't get tested, it makes it so much easier. If you get rid of all of the shitty food, and you get rid of all of the sugars, and you get rid of all of the stuff, and you just have stuff that is in your house, and you just have, you know, fruit that's out on the table instead, your willpower won't be tested. So I think if somebody can design an environment where their willpower won't be tested, it makes it easier to be consistent. And then at the same time, just develop this like deep sense of, when I say I'm going to do something, I absolutely 100% I'm going to do it. And the last thing I'll say around that, I figured this out when I was young. When I had my first office open, it drove me crazy that I would have all of these kids with so much potential come through. Because, you know, I trained by the time I was 24, I trained 2,000 sales reps. And I hated when they would say, oh, I'm going to come into the office, I'm going to make 100 phone calls. And then 2 hours later, they'd be at like 7. And so I printed out this huge flyer, like this huge thing. It just, when you walked out of my door, it said follow through. Because just so many people don't do what they say they're going to do. So if people can have the integrity to just be consistent and then just to do what they say they're going to do, I think that's probably the 2 biggest keys I can think of for success.
Do you remember when you first noticed that rich people did this thing, follow through? Like, do you remember watching somebody and saying, oh, look, they do it this way, I should mimic that? Yeah,
so my father, I told you the story, you know, he was an alcoholic, passed away when I was 15, and I was very lucky, like very, very lucky. The same way where I said, like, if I didn't have my Uncle Dan in my life, I probably wouldn't know what success looked like. And so I had a little bit of that language they already knew because I saw Dan. And so Dan, he's retired now, but he was like my first mentor by proxy, kind of. So he's my uncle, he's my mom's sister's husband. And when I was a kid, he had a glass company, he had like 200 employees, he did like 20 million a year. And he was the type of person who just followed through. Like, he was so often, like in society, people who don't have money and don't have success like to demonize people who have success, as if you have to like screw people over to make money. There's this whole thing of like, you have to screw people over, or in order for you to win, somebody else has to have lost. And my uncle was always this person where if anybody ever needed anything, he was always there for them. And if anybody needed money, he would always give it to them. He never asked for it back. He would always be the person that was there. And so I always saw this guy. The good thing was that his grandson, which is my second cousin, was 6 days younger than me. So I was always around them because he would have me come on vacation stuff. And I would see him wake up before anybody else would and get his coffee and go to work and show up and be consistent. So like from a very young age, I was like, I just have to show up and work hard. I just have to show up and work hard. And he was very consistent in the way that he did it. And once I saw, okay, if I go this route, I can be like my dad. Or if I go this route, I can be like Uncle Dan. As soon as I got the first opportunity to put any work into anything and I got into a sales position, I was like, what did Dan do? He worked his ass off. What am I gonna do? I'm gonna work my ass off. And so I think that's the first person I really realized taught me just by being around him. He never ever told me work hard or go for money or try to be successful, any of that stuff. I just saw by the type of person that he was that that's what I wanted to be.
Yeah, it's almost like you had a rich dad, poor dad.
That's 100% what I had. I've never even thought about it. That's exactly what I had. I had the rich dad, poor dad situation.
Yeah, and you were able to actually see between the two. Because a lot of times, I had a famous mentor of mine that used to say, nothing is good or bad, it's only good or bad by comparison. And so if all you've ever known was your dad, who lived a certain type of life, but that was your father, you might not have known that it was actually bad. And so being able to juxtapose two humans is actually kind of a beautiful blessing.
100%.
Yeah, and I think also, sometimes it's hard for all of us to learn what not to do just by seeing it. We have to also see what should we do? And what are the repercussions of outcomes? I love that. One other thing you've talked about that I really liked is talking about the importance of a partner and who you pick in a relationship, and how psychological stability in a partner is incredibly important. So these days we're marrying later than ever. We're having less sex. We're having less relationships. We're not jumping so easily into partnership.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's fear or, searching or what the case is. But when it comes to picking a partner, what do you think is the most important?
I think the highest version of a relationship is somebody who doesn't try to change you, and somebody who is there for you to work through your own shit. So I'll explain this because I have a story behind it. So my wife, we've been together for, next month will be 11 years we've been together. And we were talking about somebody that we know, and she's married, but doesn't really want to be married to this guy. And she hasn't wanted to be married for a while, but she feels bad. So there's this whole thing, we're talking about it. And she said, yeah, but she loves him. And I was like, okay, but is she in love with him? And she's like, well, I don't know. Like, what do you consider being in love? Well, actually, first what she did was she asked me the most woman question ever. She goes, well, are you in love with me? And I was like, she's like,
would you love me if I'm a worm?
Yeah, she's like, how do you know? And I was like, oh God, now I got to figure this out. So I was like, I think the highest version of a relationship is somebody who is there for you, that will support you through anything, but has not tried to stunt your growth. A lot of people are like, I married you because you were this person, be this person forever.
Yes.
Like a lot of people are like that. In self-development, which is what I'm in, a lot of people will get into personal development when they weren't before, and then their partner will just talk trash about trying to become better. Because their partner feels triggered like, oh, well, if she outgrows me, then she's gonna leave me. So unconsciously, they start talking trash about wanting to grow because I don't want her to leave me. And so I think that we all have our baggage, and we all have our traumas, and we all have things we need to work through. And I think that the highest version of a relationship is somebody that makes you feel like you're in such a safe space that I can come to you with all of my stuff. You won't judge me for any of it, but you'll help me work through it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing that I've learned the most from my relationship with my wife, is that I've never brought any of my baggage or trauma to talk about with her, and never felt like she came back to me like, oh, well, you're not man enough, why you bring this to me? Or, you should figure this out on your own, or whatever it might be. It was just like a safe space to be. And me, where I just happen to be a very driven, competitive, hardworking person, she never tried to change that in me, which is what was great. And so I think that she just kind of like, it's about picking the partner that you will support you to be what you want to be. And so for me, it was like, she was that person. I was able to be who I needed to be in order to grow. And I never felt like, oh, well, if this business is successful, then she's going to leave me or anything like that. So I think that's, in my opinion, it's kind of like, what's the point of a gardener? The gardener is supposed to plant the seed and give it water and give it space and give it sun so that it grows, the flower grows into its most potential that it can. And that's kind of the same way being in a relationship is like, I'm in a relationship with her. It is my job to create a safe space where she can grow to her potential, but not me try to force what she should be doing in her life.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Did you know that about her right away?
No. The thing that I knew about her is that she had a much deeper capacity to love than I did. Not because I wasn't born with that capacity. It's because I actually shut that part of me down based off of my childhood. And so I remember we went to we had a friend that was in town. I met him at a poker tournament. He's a relationship therapist. And he's like, you and your girlfriend should come by and just like check it out. I was like, okay, like not knowing anything. Like I was like, well, just come and talk to this guy. Cool, that'd be awesome. And he was the first time I ever had somebody, he goes, yeah, you were neglected as a child. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, you were neglected. I was like, well, no, like I had food and water and like I never lived on the street. He's like, no, you were emotionally neglected. And he goes, Lauren, and he gave us all our assignments. He goes, Lauren, your job is you understand love deeper than he does, because it's like a room he's never walked into. So your job is to kind of lead him and show him what love can be, and realize that he might get triggered in some sort of way because he feels unsafe because he's never felt it before. It's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of him. And if you just stay in that state of love, he will eventually kind of melt into it, I guess you could say. And so I didn't know it at all.
So do you feel like you are able to love more? Did that work?
Oh, 100%. Well, there's a lot of things that I've worked on in the past few years. Like I said, like psychedelics helped, and meditation helped, and having a baby helped. And so there's a lot of things that have helped over
young
time.
Rob probably wouldn't have talked about like trauma and
No.
neglect, and you're probably like, whatever.
No.
I'm working
I was
on
like,
shit.
Fine. I'm trying to build a business.
Yeah,
That's what it came down to more than anything else, right?
Yeah,
Like
which is super normal for people like you and I.
Sure.
We're like, yeah, trauma, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm working on this thing.
Over the past like probably 3 years, I've realized this is I got into self-development because I wanted to be successful. I wanted to make money. That was like the thing. When I was 19 and I realized I'm in a sales position, I can make money. That was like my number one focus for a really, really long time. And so I got into self-development because I was like, let me add stuff to me. Let me get better. Let me get smarter. And so it was like this idea of like, I will succeed more the more that I add to myself. And what I realized is that the real true version of self-development is actually subtraction, not addition. So like there's certain aspects of myself I need to get rid of, or I need to let go of, or not let run the show all of the time. And so for me, it's actually been a whole lot of doing less and removing aspects of myself that I'm not necessarily the most in love with.
Okay, real quick, let me cut to the chase. Your content deserves better. Better quality, better tools, and a lot less wasted time, which is also better. That's where Riverside crushes it for us. Hopefully you see that by listening to this podcast. So whether you're interviewing, podcasting, social clips, this platform is my secret weapon for getting high quality video ready to post fast as possible. 4K video? Yep. AI powered editing? Double check. It's not just about recording, it's about getting to the finish line faster. So transcripts that clean up your mistakes, AI magic clips that pick themselves, and editing tools that make even amateurs look polished. Riverside has it all. You can even toss in footage you recorded outside of the app and still unlock those killer features to edit your footage. The truth is, time is money, and Riverside is the kind of investment that we think pays for itself. So try it for free. Links in the description. You know, when I get a deal, you get a deal. So use code CODY at checkout for a discount on any paid plan. All right, let's get back into it. When you've worked with people who are poor or people who are not performing in their lives, what do you typically see that they do?
Usually nothing. I mean, they're not doing a whole lot. I mean, it comes down to like, the way I think about it is this, is like, it's not, when I said like life is not that hard, success is not that hard, it's quite simple. We make it difficult, is like, if I said, you know, this door's closed and on the other side of this there's $1 million, you just got to open the door. What do you have to do? Just get your ass up and go open the door, right? Like that's all you have to do. But if you sit there and you're like, well, I don't know, but what if I break my ankle on the way over? And it's just like, life is not that hard. You just have to take the actions that you need to do in order to solve. If you're trying to solve for X, what do you need to do to get to X? Okay, I need to take this action to do so. I don't know if my podcast would exist if people just took action. Like when I wrote my book, I was like, what the fuck do I talk about? Like if I zoom out, I have 1,600 podcast episodes, right? What do I talk about? And it's almost all of it is like mindset tricks and understanding yourself in psychological ways to understand yourself more so that you can actually do what you need to do to create the life you want.
Why do you think most people don't achieve their goals?
Because I don't think they actually care enough. Like, so my very first mentor used to always say to me, he would always say, if your why is strong enough, your how will reveal itself. And so what he always meant by that is that whenever you set a goal towards something, you need to figure out what the why is behind it. Like, why do you actually want to do it? I think the other thing that really holds a lot of people back is who they think they are. You know, it's like, I have a friend that has become pretty successful, and he grew up really, really poor in the ghetto. And he said, basically, when you grow up really poor and you see people that are successful, make a lot of money, it's like a different language. Like you just don't speak that language. And so when you grow up, and a lot of people think, well, oh, I have an alcoholic father, so I can't be successful. My mom said I was worthless, or, you know, this person broke my heart because I'm unlovable. And so they have this identity of who they think they are. And when you have an identity of who you think you are, you always take actions that line up with that identity. And so one of the biggest reasons why people don't hit their goals is because they're not taking the action towards their goals, because they don't actually think that they're the type of person that can do it. And so one of the biggest things I think people can do is actually shift the identity of who they think they are, which sounds near impossible. It's like, oh yeah, well, I'm Rob, I've always been Rob. Oh, I'm Cody, I've always been Cody. Like, it's like, but you have to understand, like, who you think you are is literally a character you're just waking up and deciding to play every single day. Like I was literally thinking about this today, earlier this morning. I had Matthew McConaughey on my podcast like 4 years ago, right? And I was like, I wonder if that's actually how he is. Like, is he actually that guy? Like, is he actually that cool? Or is he just such a good actor that when the camera turns on, whenever he's on an interview, that he is just, you know, turns that character on? And I like 5 minutes before we started, and I was like, oh my God, he's that guy. But then I realized, like, what if one day he just woke up and was like, I want to be this character. He decided to be that character, and now that character's loved by everybody. And so it's like the phrase Alan Watts says, where he says, you're under no obligation to be who you were 5 minutes ago. Like, somebody can wake up and just decide to be somebody different tomorrow. Like, I wore a black shirt today. I can wear a white one tomorrow. So it's like, imagine just if you're a really shy person, you're not good in sales, but you have this company and you've got to get like sales going, that you just wake up today and you're like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to be really outgoing today and just see what it happens. And if it works for your business, maybe you're like, you know what? I'm going to take that. I'm going to try to become a little bit more outgoing. And so I think there are two reasons why is because they don't have a purpose, like a why behind why they want to go for the goal. And the second thing is they actually don't think that they can be the type of person that does it, but their identity is literally just as thin as a character that anybody plays on TV. Another big piece of it is the fears. And so like with the identities, like their self-limiting beliefs, what they think of themselves. The fears is like what they're fearing, what pain they're anticipating in the future. And the third thing is like they just don't have a purpose behind it. They don't have a why that's driving them towards it. And so it's not really that hard. It's just that most people are deciding to, be addicted to their phones. They're not deciding a lot of times. They're just unconsciously addicted to their phones. They're unconsciously addicted to, eating this trashy food. They're unconsciously addicted to watching Netflix. They're addicted to, sleeping in. And most people will choose the easy route. Like that is what we do, is we choose easy. And it's like the only time that somebody will really make a change in their life is when the pain of staying the same is more painful than the pain of change. And if they just understand that, like you just have to look at your life, fast forward at 10 years and think, well, if I'm in the exact same position right now in 10 years, am I going to be happy with myself? Is it going to be worse? First mentor used to always say either green and growing or brown and dying. You're either getting better, like there's no such thing as staying in the same place. If you're in the same place 10 years from now, you're worse than you were today. And so it's like you have to understand that staying the same has to become more painful than the change that you have to put in, because like it's really like my true belief that life is either hard now and easy later, or it's easy now and hard later. And time will always catch up with you. Like time is the greatest equalizer, and it is either your best friend or it's your worst enemy. It's your best friend if you do the hard stuff now. It is your worst enemy if you're choosing an easier life now.
You've also talked a lot about brain chemistry and how understanding your brain chemistry has made you able to take more action.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
So, yeah, I love to talk about it. So I'm really into like this incredible machine that we're given, but we have no idea how to use. Like we're born with the most complex piece of machinery in the entire world, but we have no manual of how to use it. So I'm always like, how can I figure out how this thing works so that therefore I can use it to my benefit? And so like the thing that I think is the most interesting and like that really drives me, even literally today, and I'm not even kidding you, if you've ever sat down and created a course or created a book or something, the very first thing that hits you is like, oh, fuck. I'm like, dude, I've got so much to do before the end of the year, and I'm just thinking this in my head, right? And so I'm thinking that in my head, and I'm like, I just have to start. And the reason why I know I have to start is because, so when your brain, when you sit down and you're like, I'm gonna do something different, when your brain is getting ready to focus, it releases two things. It releases acetylcholine and it releases epinephrine. And so those two things, acetylcholine and epinephrine, are what make you start to focus in on something. The problem with that is that acetylcholine and epinephrine actually come from the parts of the brain that feel like anxiety. And so if we're about to do something and we're about to feel more focused, the feeling up of warming up in our brain should actually make you feel anxious, because it's your brain starting to warm up for focus that's about to happen. And so I know that it takes on average about 6 minutes for a brain to warm up, right? So it's like if you go into a gym, like my trainer came over today, like I didn't go and like start pulling 100 pounds immediately. Like I had to do stretches first, and I had to do the movement first, and we had to do all the crazy stuff that he likes to do. And then we could go and I could actually work on the 100-pound kettlebell, right? Because I needed to warm up. It's the exact same thing where like your brain, when it's about to focus, it's got to go through this little bit of a warm-up phase. The thing that's really interesting though is that warm-up phase feels like stress and anxiety because it comes from that part of the brain. So when I sat down today, I was immediately flooded with like the stress and anxiety of like how big of a task this is for me to do. I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, but it's almost the end of the year, and we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and I've got Christmas coming up, and I've got to go home for Christmas. Oh my God, am I going to get, and so it's like all of this is happening, and I had to be like, hold on, take a step back. You're feeling this way because your brain's about to focus. You know that your brain's about to focus. So all you have to do is fight through on average the first 6 minutes. And that's it. And you fight through those 6 minutes and your brain will actually start to become more focused. That's one of the most interesting things that I think is when we feel stress and anxiety, we think that it's, oh, I need to back away. But really what it is, this feeling of like, oh, I should actually lean in because neurologically it's my brain warming up to focus so that I can get this task done.
Is this a rule that you have, the 6-minute rule?
Yeah, it's like, well, I don't let myself stop. But
this is a good, you should name and frame this thing. Is this something you
sure,
talk
right?
about on the internet? Yeah. I've never, because you're right. Every time I go and sit down to write in particular, I get distracted or I get annoyed or I get a little twitchy or I kind of got to fidget around for a little bit and I fiddle fuck my way through those first 6 minutes until finally somehow I relax. Right. But if you know the thing that's coming, then the expectation is so much easier once it hits. Yeah. But often, I don't think about it that way. So I think that's really good. You gotta trademark that.
You're gonna have to try it out and then text me and let me know. Okay,
yeah, I'll put a little
6
timer.
minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, and then just as soon as you get past it, you'll realize that you kind of like get into flow state and you kind of forget about the stress and anxiety and like you're into it now, and then you end up being done eventually. You're like, oh my God, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be.
It's interesting because when you work out, you always anticipate, well, you have a 5 or 10 minute warm up.
Right.
Like that's just, you're not going to go in there and sprint right away, especially at our age. Yeah. You're going to chill a little bit. You're going to warm up, you're going to stretch out. And if you did the same thing with creative work, would that not be the same? And then you could decrease that writer's block, that stress that I can't do this.
Yes.
Which is fascinating.
Isn't it?
The other thing that you talk about a lot is the dopamine reward system and how you can use it to create better habits in your life. Yeah. How can somebody use dopamine to make their life better or to make habits in their life easier?
Yeah, so dopamine usually gets put together with serotonin. So there's serotonin, dopamine. Everyone's always like, oh, those are the feel-good chemicals. Serotonin is the gratitude, you feel good. Like if you're ever done with work and you're like, man, you're looking at your husband, you're like, I love him so much. Oh my God, I'm so happy I have this business. That's serotonin that's going through your brain. That's not dopamine, right? So it's the here and now, I feel good in this moment chemical. Dopamine, on the other hand, if you look at most of the chemicals that are extremely addictive, like cocaine, crack, all of those, they are usually high dopamine chemicals, like those drugs. When you do cocaine, usually your dopamine goes up by about 250%.
Jesus.
So it just raises like crazy. So then when it's gone, your brain wants it again. And so it's very addictive in the sense of we want to find things that are going to give us dopamine. The really interesting thing about dopamine, though, is dopamine is 100% subjective as well. And so what I mean by that is that you can basically make your brain release dopamine whenever you want to. And so this is how you use it. So most people, whenever they go for a habit, like for instance, let's say it's a long day that they have and they go for a glass of wine. That glass of wine makes them feel good and they're going to want to do it again. They naturally want to go towards that. That's their body, that's the dopamine of being able, I wanted this thing, I've got this thing, now I feel good. But then after you're done with that glass of wine, what happens? Oh my God, I want another glass of wine. And so it usually ends up going that way. So whenever you sit to yourself and you're like, okay, I want to do this task, how can I make like I've always thought to myself, like, how can I make myself addicted to taking the action I need to create the life that I want, right? Like if like for instance, people are always like, how have you done 1,600 podcast episodes? I accidentally created a dopamine reward system in myself. And so this is basically how it works, okay? You can literally get done with something. So whenever I get done with a podcast, every time what I do is I change my shirt because I want to make it look like it's a different day. You know, like content days, right? You just got to change your shirt.
Yep.
So I would change my shirt, and because I get jazzed up about creating content, I'm like, I love what I do. I did this thing where every time I look in the mirror, I'm like, this is fucking awesome. Like, you're killing it. This is amazing. What I didn't realize is that I was then creating a dopamine reward system where my body was releasing dopamine, which is what it's signaling to my brain and body is that what you just did release dopamine, do it again. So I just took the action that I needed to in order to make myself be more successful. I celebrated it, and that celebration released dopamine, which then said my brain and body that creating the episode is something you should do again.
Levi, are we going to start doing this?
You guys should have a dance party at the end of every single episode, whenever you get done with the reels. And so what's happening is you're actually teaching your brain to be addicted to this thing. So like another example, let's say like somebody wants to go to the gym, right? Most people, and I was this way for a really long time, do not celebrate themselves until they hit the goal. The problem with that is that you might not hit the goal for a month, for 2 months, for 12, if it's a year-long goal. If you want to lose 30 pounds in 2025, and you won't be happy until you get to that 30 pounds being lost, you are not giving your brain dopamine, which means that it's not going to like the process. Because what do most people do? This is what most people do, according to what I hear from people, right? They go to the gym, they come back, they take a shower, they see their naked body in the mirror, and they're like, oh, you still look fucking fat, right? And then they talk shit to themselves when they just got the thing done what they wanted to do. So they're actually saying to their brain, without them realizing it, the thing that you just did is not something that you enjoy. It's not good for you, right? Versus you go to the gym. As soon as you walk in the gym, talk to yourself. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud that you did this. You're doing this. This is amazing. You get done with your first set. You look yourself in the mirror. You don't say it out loud unless you're, have a home gym if you want to. Otherwise, people are going to think you're crazy, right? People are going to take their cameras and go towards you after. Yeah, you sexy bitch. You look amazing, right? But it's like you talk to yourself in your head after every single set that you have, and then makes you more likely to show up the next day because it feels good because your brain is subjectively releases dopamine throughout the entire process. So then you actually start becoming addicted to the process because your brain says, oh, when I do this, I get dopamine. When I do this, I get dopamine. Okay, I want dopamine, so I want to do this. They've actually found that for people, if you have a small piece of chocolate, because chocolate releases dopamine as well, if you have a small piece of chocolate after working out, you're more likely to show up the next day to work out again. Not like an entire candy bar, right?
I love this for
me. So it's like a tiny little piece, right? So it'll just release a little bit. It's like giving yourself the prize that's saying what you're doing is good, you're on the right path. And so I always say most people have results-based goals, which is when I lose those 30 pounds. What I want to celebrate is I want to create is action-based goals. What's the action that I need to do in order to get to this place? And when I get done with the action, I celebrate myself, which means I'm more likely to do the action again. And if I just keep showing up and I'm consistent with it, like we spoke about earlier, eventually I'll just end up at the result that I wanted in the first place.
That's great. Yeah, when I go to the gym, why I like arms is because when I'm, getting my little pump in, I'm looking at them. I'm like, look at that. Mm-hmm. That appears to be a vein. Yeah. And it's an immediate feedback loop because there's a mirror in front of me. Whereas legs, I have my leggings on, I can't really see what's happening there. No reward. No. So I got to start going. I got to start going in shorts or something.
It's these little tricks. Flexing. It's just how can I just make the life I want and taking the action to do it easier is all I really want to focus on for people.
Yeah. What's interesting too is, so right now I have a family member who is trying to get a job. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because I was talking to him last night and he's like, man, it's just a really tough process. It's not fun and it's a little lonely and I'm a little sad about it. Mm. And my response was, that seems reasonable because it sucks until finally it doesn't, but then you're done. Yeah. And there's really no positive feedback loop whatsoever. Sure. It's all negative feedback loops until you're done. Except if you do it your way. Mm-hmm. If instead you say, all right, I don't have a job right now. I want a job. So every single day, what am I going to do? I'm going to reach out to 10 different companies. I'm going to individually ping 10 different people. I'm going to pick up the phone and try to schedule a breakfast or walk or something with 3 people I don't know each day. And if I do that every day, just the action, I'll check a box. I'll have a run. I'll have a glass of wine. Yep. And I bet he'd feel a lot better if he did that.
I had when I was back in the Cutco days, my first manager, I don't think he knew a dopamine reward system, but he basically kind of left little trails, kind of like E.T. when you to put the Reese's Pieces and he would come and go from one to another.
I like that. That's a millennial throwback right there.
Right. So this is what he had us do is we would come in and we'd do these things called phone jams and we would make 100 phone calls, right? 100 cold calls. These people do not expect me to call them, all of it. And he's like, what's your favorite?
Knives too. Right? That's a brutal job.
That's super brutal, right? Imagine training people. I trained 2,000 people
for that.
To do
That's
it.
Nuts.
Right? It's a wild thing. My wife, we have a joke because she ghosted me for a little while, but she never told me no. And so I'm just I'm a salesperson, so I just kept following up. I was just used to follow up. And then eventually she's like, all right, fine, let's go on a date.
Put her in your calendar.
She says she went on the first date with me because she was like, he's nice, but she wanted to be single at the time. So she's like, you know what? I'm just going to go on a date with him just to prove to myself that I don't like him. And then she went on the first date with me and she's like, shit, I like this guy. And then from there, we started dating and it went well. So, I don't know what we were talking about before that, but yes,
Well, you were talking about your boss, when you were younger, created a dopamine reward system by accident for your 100 call days.
So he would say, what's your favorite candy? And I was like, Skittles. He goes, okay. when you come in on Thursday, I'll bring a bag of Skittles with me. And what he would do is we would have this piece of paper and it had 1 to 100 on the piece of paper. So there's 10 lines, then it was 10 lines, there's 10 of them, right? And so at the end of number 10, as soon as I crossed off 10, there were 3 Skittles. At the end of 20, there were 3 Skittles, all the way down. And then I could finish the bag of Skittles when I finished 100 calls, which is like, I'm trying to get myself to this thing, these 10 calls, which are just brutal to call people who don't expect you to call. And then you get 3 Skittles. So I'm like, oh, I want to get to the Skittles.
The Skittles were enough?
Yeah, they were enough.
Was it just
19-year-old college kid? I didn't want to spend $4 on it. Yeah.
Or was monetary?
Well, it was probably both. I think it's probably Skittles more than anything else.
Yeah,
that's what
I think if I tried Skittles with my employees here, they'd tell me to fucking go.
I don't think would.
Is that going to work, Levi? He might work, actually. Maybe I'm underestimating. Okay.
And so, like, for me, that drove me to go take the calls. And so I think it's just that little thing of like, how can I have like a little bit of like the prize at the end of doing the thing I want to do, right? Instead of, and that's for today, not like when I hit my goal in 3 months. It's like, what do I need to do today? Because most of the time what we do is we do the thing in our business that we need to do, and there's no revenue coming in today from what we just did. And we're like, damn it, like I'm still so far, like I've got to figure out how to pay the damn bills, versus being like, I did what I needed to do to get me one step further. I'm going to celebrate that thing, which is the difference between like action-based goals, which is taking the action, versus only celebrating on results-based goals.
What else you're reminding me of is how little we actually need to get motivated.
Oh yeah.
You know, because you think about like Robinhood or E-Trade, they literally addict us to stock trading because of confetti that pops up and a bright button and a little noise.
Yeah.
And so, but we don't play that game with ourselves enough. And we think that we need to do it this intense, huge reward at the end, which is often what I think about. I'm like, well, when I do this, I'll
buy a watch or something like that.
Big, huge end game. But actually, it's really killing us because we're not doing it every step of the way.
Exactly.
That's such a little thing that I've
You're
even
delaying
forgotten.
dopamine is what you're doing, which is what you're actually trying to go for.
How does this work in practice? So let's say that somebody's listening right now and they're not where they want to be in their career. You know, they're like, man, life hasn't worked out exactly like I wanted it to. I wish that I had more money. I wish I was where I wanted to be today. How do you get them down the rabbit hole all the way to the truth? Because I think a lot of them probably stop really high. They're like, I want to be richer. I want more money. I want to be successful.
Yeah.
But what are the questions you keep asking to get them to that deep, dark place?
Well, so there's a thing that I found years ago. It's called the 7 levels of why. And it's literally, okay, you want to do X, Y, Z. Why do you want to do that? And you come up with a whole reason why you want to do it. And you say, why do you want to do that? You come up with a whole reason. If you go 7 levels why, usually people start to actually tell you the truth and get through their own BS. I think the problem is that a lot of people are very surface level nowadays. Like, we're very surface level with ourselves. We're very surface level with other people. Like, people don't really know themselves. Like, they think that they do. And then they start to work on themselves, and they start to work with a journal, and they meditate and whatever it is. And they actually start to figure themselves out more. And I think the biggest piece is that if you just sit down and ask, why do I want this? 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 Either you're just going to be lying to yourself, or you're going to start to unravel some pieces. And what I think is really important is, like, the way that I always talk about journaling and how you want to do this is, if why's not hitting with you, go a level deeper by saying who, what, why, when, or how. So it's who, what, why, when, how. It's not just why, but it's like, okay, let's say I want to, make $500,000. Why do I want to make $500,000? Because I've never made that much before. All right, I'm not getting something there. Who? Okay, if I use whose life will be impacted if I make $500,000? My children. Okay, who, what, why, when, how? Let me try another one. How's that going to change your life? How's it going to change your education? What opportunities will become available for them if I make more money and we live in a better part of town? Right? It's like, could their education, we live in America, it's a shitty fact, but if you live in a better part of town, your children get a better education. I had inside of my book, I wrote a story of one of my very first clients that I worked with one-on-one, and his goal was to make $100,000 a year. Like, he's like, I want to make $100,000 a year. And I was like, okay, why? He's like, because I've never done it before. I was like, okay, tell me why. And we went deeper and deeper and deeper, and we ended up finding out the reason why he wanted to do it was because he had just gotten a divorce. He lived just outside of New York in a really bad part of town. His wife lived in a worse part of town, ex-wife, worst part of town. And we ended up finding out that his biggest fear was that, and this had to be like watered down for the book because the publisher didn't want this exact story, But his biggest fear was that his daughter would get pregnant by 13 and his son would be murdered in a drive-by. And so that ended up being his reason for wanting to get to $100,000 a year. And so instead of saying I want to make $100,000 a year because I've never done it before, it now became I want to make $100,000 in a year so that I could put a down payment on a house, so I could take my children, I can put them into a better part of town, they can get a better education and have their lives completely changed because I decided to work harder towards it. So if you start thinking this way, and like who, what, why, when, how, you can start going deep with yourself and you realize if you can take it from just yourself and start putting children and start putting your family into it and your spouse into it, your mother, father, usually you'll start to find that the reason ultimately why you want to do something is how it's going to make you feel and how it's going to impact the people who you love. And if you can realize that and start to work through those lenses, which is like, oh, so hold on. I want to grow this business. Why do I want to grow this business? I want to grow this business because I want to make money, because I want to buy a Ferrari, whatever it is that people want, right? And then you start asking yourself, well, how's that going to impact my children's life? I mean, let's just be real. If you're able to give more opportunities to your children, they're probably going to end up having a better life. And one of the pieces that's an important part of it that I want to say though, and we haven't spoke on, is there's this misconception, because I think people do it wrong. There's this misconception that if I want to be a really successful business owner, I have to have a terrible relationship with my children, or I have to like spend less time with my children, right? Like that happens a lot where people like I talk to people and they're like, yeah, I want to be a successful business owner, but I don't want to spend less time with my children. I'm like, who the fuck said that you had to spend less time with your children? Like, yeah. Right? So it's like, the thing is like, I think that's an old paradigm of like, if I want to be successful, then my relationship with my wife needs to, hurt because of that. I don't get to see my children as much because of that. That is like a scarcity mindset. And scarcity is or. Like, so it's like, it's either this or it's this. It's either this or it's this. That's scarcity. Abundance is and, which is how do I make a very successful business and spend more time with my children? Like that's an and. And so what you realize is that at this moment I might not know, but I need to evolve myself. I need to evolve. There's either a skill set that I need to learn or there's knowledge that I need to learn in order to be able to delegate to my team members how to hire better, how to delegate better, so that I can spend more time with my family. Like my overall goal of becoming a successful business owner was to make a bunch of money, but also to be a present father because my father was never present with me. And so the cool thing about it is I've set my business up where I need to show up at certain points, but I'm not necessary all the time. So I can spend more time with my son and can spend more time with my wife. And we can disappear and go travel for 3 weeks and only do 2 check-in calls to make sure the business is still running. And so it's not that that in order to have a successful business or be successful or make a bunch of money or impact people, that other people have to suffer because of that you love. It's not a or problem. It's really just a how do I become better problem. How do you become better? I have a sign that's on my desk and it just says be better. And that's it. And it's not like me being an asshole to myself. It's me just going, okay, I've got this thing I've got to solve for my business. It's stressing me out because I don't know what the answer is. And I look at it, I'm like, be better. Okay, there's a more expansive version, there's a more evolved version of Rob that knows how to solve this problem. There's knowledge I need to get or there's skill set I need to get in order to solve this. That's all I need to figure out. And so, yeah, I think if people just focus on if I just need to be better, then I can figure out a way to, have this reality and that reality and that reality all live together and not have to live in scarcity. Speaking of being better, what about when you're working with somebody who's really resistant to change? Mm-hmm. Do you have a process where you can just shake somebody out of ruining their life? Yeah, I mean, the thing I like to think about is like what the future could be if somebody doesn't change, And so it's like, if we go back to the whole idea of like the only time somebody will make a change is when the pain of staying the same is more painful than the pain of change. Like I had a guy one time that came up to me after a speech that I gave like 5 years ago. And he was pretty overweight. And he's like, Rob, I want to lose weight. I don't know how to lose weight. What should I do? And I was like, okay, well, tell me about it. What have you tried? I was like, what's your fear that if you don't lose weight? He's like, well, I'm just afraid that I won't be healthy later on in life. I'm like, okay, that's not really good. Like, what are you actually afraid of? And after talking to this guy for a few minutes, I was like, okay, what's your biggest fear? If you don't lose the weight that you want to lose, what's your biggest fear is going to happen? He goes, my biggest fear, his daughter was like 10 at the time. He goes, my biggest fear is that I won't be around to walk my daughter down the aisle. And I was like, that's it. I was like, okay, so walk through this with me real quick. Let's say, say his name's John. John, let's say that you decide not to change. You decide not to lose weight. You decide not to eat healthier. You decide not to go to the gym, walk, do all the things that you know you should do. And you're fully capable of doing right now. And we fast forward, let's say we fast forward 15 years. Your daughter's 25 years old. And because of the fact that you didn't take the action that you needed to, you end up passing away from a heart attack. And as your daughter's walking down the aisle by herself, when you should be there with her, she sees her husband that's up in front, and over to the left side, which is always the bride's side, on the left corner, there is your suit that's folded up in the corner. And she has to see your suit folded up on the first chair instead of you actually being in that suit and walking around the aisle. What does that feel like to you? And he was like bawling, and he's like, that's like he was just thinking about that, right? And it was a physical feeling, like I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this moment again. And he's like, I don't know how I could live with myself knowing that is a possibility. And I was like, okay, here's my email. Send me an email in 3 months. Let me know how it's going. And so he sent me an email in like 3 months. He ended up losing like 20 pounds. He sent me an email almost like a year later. He lost like 75 pounds. And the reason why was because he put himself into the future. Because we like to think of like right now. Right now, okay, I'm alive, I'm breathing, I'm okay. Like I'm a little uncomfortable where it is. Like I'm not breathing as well as I should be, but I'm okay. But if he fast forwards and he starts thinking about what his life could be, how his daughter's gonna be affected, how his wife's gonna be affected, and that's a reality that could possibly be a true reality if he doesn't change. Then he was like, I can't let that shit happen. I need to change. But there is also the aspect of like, you can't, like one of my second mentor used to always say this to me. He used to always say, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Because what drove me crazy about when I was in Cutco is I'd have these people that had so much potential and they could have been so good, but they just wouldn't show up. They wouldn't do what they needed to do. And it used to drive me crazy because I was like, how do I get them to change? And he was like, Rob, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. The only thing that you can do is try your best to help other people. But if somebody doesn't change, you're not the one that's in control of that. And so it's like, if somebody can put themselves into the future, I think that helps a lot. But ultimately, if somebody else wants to change, it's fully up to them and not up to me.
Rob Dial, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fun.
With that.
You just genuinely gotta not give a fuck. We're all in verbally abusive relationships with our smartphones. Why would you go to a place where somebody's constantly telling you that you ain't shit? If you were married to a person like that, you wouldn't stick around in that relationship. So why do we take our monkey asses over to social media, especially Twitter?
Charlemagne the God has built his career by telling the truth out loud and doing the inner work to handle the fallout. In this episode, we're gonna get tactical about how to have difficult conversations, how to win, what it takes to win, how to deal with things when it's not going well, and we're gonna break down the biggest lies people tell themselves about the world around them, acceptance, and how to actually make yourself better without hating yourself. What do you think the most important question is to ask in a conversation when you want to find the truth?
Oh, I definitely think it's why. In particular, politicians always ask the question twice.
I aspire to be this level of 50 Cent petty. Like, talk to me about what's happening there.
And the things that I've seen, I get it. Don't offend the wrong person. Yeah, that's one of the 4-day laws of power. Do not offend the wrong person, because you might have an enemy for life.
So I kind of want to start with the fact that you've interviewed all of these legends for years. And I'm so curious, when you're interviewing big names, one of the most interesting parts for me listening to you is like, you don't let them go easy. Like, you got the hard questions almost always with like a lot of empathy, I think.
Nowadays.
Before
Nowadays, more empathy.
Interesting. Back in the day, you went at them?
I wasn't even thinking about it. It was just like, I didn't even look at them as humans, so to speak. I was just, I had a job to do, and I felt like I wanted to ask these questions as a curious person, right? Mm-hmm. And because, I always want to ask the questions that other people want to know about. And so it's just like, I was going to do that. regardless. So I didn't even look at a person as a human. I know that sounds crazy, right? But I really didn't. It was just the subject of an interview, and I didn't think about this person is going to leave here and they might have a whole family or kids or, they're going to be thinking about, these things later on. So it's just like, I just used to ask the question.
Now, do you think you're nicer? Are you softer?
Yeah, I would hope so. I don't. Yeah, nicer, softer. Like those aren't negative words, right? Like a lot of people like to act like those are negative words in this business. But some of the nicest, most softest people are known as some of the greatest interviewers ever. Like personally, I like the Larry Kings of the world, right? Because they just had an intellectual curiosity. I remember one time Larry King told me, God bless the dead, Larry King said, the most important question you can ask in an interview, Charlamagne, is why? And so that's a simple question, but it does help you to dig, very deep. But then I love the interview style of people like, Barbara Walters as well. It might have came off as, intrusive and aggressive, but she knew that she had a job to do. And if that person is sitting in front of you as just a fan of culture, you have certain questions you're going to ask, but you also know that the people watching have questions they want you to ask. So I think it's a combination of both. So nice isn't a bad intention to approach, an interview with. Like you can still be nice and still ask the hard-hitting questions.
What do you think the most important question is to ask in a conversation when you want to find the truth?
Oh, I definitely think it's why. And I definitely think when you're, interviewing people, in particular politicians, always ask the question twice, because when you ask the question, they'll have a prepared answer for it, right? But then when you ask them again and say, "But why?" Now they really got an answer from the human aspect and not the politician. We sat around with our team and these are the answers we came up with to answer, this question. They really got to answer it. So I think, asking whatever the question is twice, but then when you ask it again, that's when you hit them with but why though?
Interesting. How much do you prep for an interview?
Oh, a lot.
What does that look like?
Like I said, I'm a fan of culture. And when I say culture, I don't just mean entertainment. I mean everything from sports to, politics, because politics is pop culture now, to, spiritualness, mindfulness, like all of these different things. So I'm usually already kind of well versed on whoever it is I'm sitting down talking to. But then, when you're sitting down to have an interview, you just want to see what's really going on, like in that moment, because usually, like, most people have something going on in that moment that you would want to talk about. If it's a author who has a book out, read their book. If it's a person who dropped a movie or a TV show, watch the movie, watch the TV show, just so you can be well versed on that individual. But I also like the sense of discovery that happens in interviews. So you don't want to be over prepped, right? Because sometimes you'll be talking to a person and you kind of already know where they're going with the conversation. So you might be saying things before they say it. So it's like sometimes I just like the sense of discovery of finding things out, in conversation.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think about it a lot. I mean, you have a giant audience. But I remember, like, it was just a few weeks ago when I realized, wow, one episode, if you consider shorts and YouTube too, is going to get a couple million people to watch it.
Yeah.
And if that means there's 1 million hours spent listening to this moment, it's kind of fucking scary.
I love it.
I better value it.
Yes.
What if we waste their time? What if we give them a bunch of bullshit?
But that's the thing. What you just said, Codie, is absolutely true. But I look at it also from another angle of, and I know this is going to sound dark, but what about when these people die? Like literally, over the last 15 years, I've had conversations with a lot of people who are no longer here. So when I sit down with people, that's what I think about. What if this is this person's last conversation ever? What if it's my last conversation ever? But usually when you're talking to these people, yes, what I'm saying? But usually when you're talking to these individuals, these are moments in time that when, this person gets older, they might use for documentaries, or when this person passes away, they might use for documentaries. These are things that that other interviewers are going to reference when they sit down, to have conversations with these individuals. Like, yo, I saw you on, Codie Sanchez show. I saw you on Breakfast Club with Charlamagne, and you said this. So that's another way that I approach those conversations as well.
That's interesting. You seem pretty obsessed with what you do. Are you?
I think you got to be.
Yeah.
I think you got to be obsessed with, whatever it is that you do to actually have success. Like, if you're not obsessed about something, like, if you're not obsessed about, being on these microphones, or if LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, God bless the day, Kobe, if they're not obsessed with what they do on the basketball court, if you're a public servant, if you're not obsessed, with, doing the bidding of the people in the streets, right? Like, if you're not obsessed with what it is that you do, then why are you doing it? Like that's why they call it a passion, like that thing that you would do for free. Yes, I'm obsessed with communicating on these microphones, 100%, because I look at myself, like a public servant. And because I know that, I am serving the needs of the public every day, whether it's through making them laugh, whether it's through informing them, whether it's through, having somebody on that's going to say something beneficial to them, that's going to get them, on a path of righteousness with spirituality, or, decide to start going to therapy because, we having conversations about mental health, whatever it is, you got to be obsessed with what it is that you do.
How did you figure out what you were obsessed with, or how did you find this path? I think so many people, and a lot of people listening, they say that, like, I don't know what I'm passionate about, or yeah, maybe I want to have a podcast, or is that just mimetic desire? Like, how does somebody who's totally lost and not sure what they're obsessed in, is there a trick to find what you could become obsessed with?
Man, that is an amazing question. It's a layered question because I can only speak for me, right? When I started off, I was born in 1978. Right. So I started doing radio back in 1998. Right. I started off as an intern in Charleston, South Carolina at Z93 Jams in 1998. And the reason I even, got there is because I was just trying to find something positive to do because of the way I was living in the street. And it's so funny that all of the things I would get in trouble for in school, being disruptive, talking too much, being the class clown, all of those things were actual qualities that when I got on the microphone helped me, right? So when I started off doing radio, I started off as an intern in 1998. I didn't get on the air until like 1999. I always got to salute my guy, Ron White. He texted me today and said, I think this is one of those times where you're ignoring me. Or you set a boundary with me. And he's right. But salute to my guy, Ron. But he's the first person to ever put me on air, right? Because I was an intern, then I worked in the promotions department, so I would drive the van and put posters up and all of that stuff when the actual talent was on, doing their remotes. But then Ron was like, "Yo, have you ever thought about being on the air?" Right? And I'm like, "No, but what's up?" And so they started putting me on the air, and it was literally one of those things that I just knew this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I remember the moment I was in the radio station doing overnights. Overnights is, midnight to 6 a.m, where it just hit me like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But I don't just want to be a local radio personality, doing the time and temperature, in a city. I want to be a super jock. The super jocks back then were the Tom Joyners, and the Doug Banks, God bless the dead. Salute to my guy, Russ Parr, Howard Stern, Angie Martinez, Wendy Williams. Those are the people you thought about when you thought about like the super jocks. And that's what I wanted to be. And I knew that I wanted to be that since 1999.
Wow. And
I want to add one more thing.
Get in there.
In my first book, Black Privilege, Opportunity Comes to Those Who Create It, New York Times bestseller.
Great book. I read it.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I have a chapter called Fuck Your Dreams. And the reason I say fuck your dreams is the name of the chapter, but the actual ideology is fuck your dreams if it's not your dream. Mm-hmm. A lot of times we see things working for other people and we say to ourselves, you know what, this is what I should be doing. But that's not what God has planned for you. Mm-hmm. Like God has something destined for you to unlock your greatness, but you got to figure out what that is. Like it's not just because you see everybody with a podcast don't mean that you should have a podcast. Just because you see these people on radio having success doesn't mean that you should, run to be a radio personality. Like, you should, even if you feel called to those spaces, number one, ask yourself why, right? What is your actual intention? If it's I want to make money and I want to be famous, that's not a real intention. What is your actual why to wanting to be in these spaces? And if you do feel called to be in these spaces, explore every aspect of the space. Like right now, we're recording this podcast in this studio. Somebody had to set up these cameras. Somebody had to set up these microphones, right? There's producers that are listening to us talk right now. There's all type of ways to be in this space, be in this business, and not be doing what you and I are doing right now. So that's what I would tell folks. You know, if you do feel called to certain spaces in certain areas, doesn't mean that you're supposed to be Cody. Doesn't mean that you're supposed to be Charlemagne. Figure out what that means and why you're being called.
You know, you talked about wanting to be a super jock, and let's just call that like the greatest, one of the greatest of your profession. Mm-hmm. What do you think it takes to be the greatest in any profession? Like these days, there's a lot of people that'll say work-life balance matters a lot. Can you have work-life balance on your way up to greatness?
Yes. I might have answered that different some years ago. But yes, you can have work-life balance. I would actually tell people that, you know, in this profession, work-life balance is actually what's probably going to make you have more success. Because for what we do, you know, on these microphones, being able to communicate life in a way that connects with people is what kind of makes people gravitate towards us. So you got to live life in order to be able to do that, right? So when I'm, you know, like I just came back from Cape Town, you know, South Africa, and I was there throughout the whole holidays, and it's just interesting to watch people from other countries and how they gravitate towards, you know, somebody from another country just because they've been listening to them, you know, for so long. And one of the things that a lot of the people kept coming up to me saying was, "Thank you for embracing our continent the way that you do. Thank you for having," you know, they were naming different, you know, African talent that has been on the show, whether it's, you know, people like DeVito or Burna Boy, or, you know, me being friends with my homegirl DJ Cuppy or Bo Nong. Like they were, you know, my man Casper, I'm gonna mispronounce his last name, so I'm just gonna say Casper. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But they were coming up to me because of the way that I connect with them and how I'm able to communicate my experience as a Black American, appreciating what it is that they do and bringing them on my platform and having a conversation. So it's just, I think that, yeah, you got work-life balance matter. Like I'm able to go to South Africa and like experience that place for myself. And then now come back to America and talk to my listeners who may never have been to South Africa. I've had the pleasure of being, you know, going to Johannesburg and Cape Town. And that might make more people want to go to Cape Town and Johannesburg just listening to me communicate my experiences there. So yeah, I think you gotta have work-life balance because you have to live life, right? And not even just in this profession, just in general. Like, yo, yeah, do yourself a favor and go live some life. You got 168 hours in a week. You know how much time that is? Like 168 hours. You should have more than enough time to do what it is you got to do as far as your living in your career is concerned, but also go out there and just have some time for yourself and your family.
You know what I think we should talk about that we talked about before? We were talking about time. And I said a line like, we got to be done at this time. I worry about not respecting people in time. I'm married to a military man, so he really associates lateness or extension with disrespect, which is kind of like a military mentality. And so I was like, I'm going to make sure we're out on time. And you had like a really interesting take on a book you had read in two different types of time.
Yeah, it's this book that I love to read. It's called The Big Leap. Like I read it, you know, often, but it's written by Gay Hendricks, and he talks about Newtonian time and Einstein time. And Einstein time, if I'm saying it correctly, Einstein time is basically us realizing that we create time. Now, I do agree you should respect, you know, people's time, but when we say things like, I don't have the time for that. Yes, you do. You just don't want to do it. And you're using time as the scapegoat. And the example he uses is like your kid might walk in and your kid might ask you to play. And you'd be like, I don't have time for that right now. But if your kid walked in and your kid was, you know, cut and bleeding, you would stop everything and you would have the time to do whatever it is to make your child stop bleeding and stop feeling that pain. And so it's just the way we look at, you know, what time is, instead of treating time like it's something that's out of our control, or, you know, we're a victim to it. No, you have all the time that you create.
So do you not say the words, I don't have time? Do you replace it with something?
That's why I constantly read books, the same book over and over, right? I mean, like when I'm really into a book, I read it over and over because you want to constantly try to practice these things that you are learning in that book. But yeah, it's like there's no such thing as not having time. The other saying that we always say is you make time for what you want to make time for. So instead of saying, I don't have time, I don't want to right now. Like, it's like somebody comes to me right now and is like, hey man, I would really love if you would be at such and such, blah, blah, blah. Let me talk to my assistant so I can check my schedule and see if I can squeeze it. You don't really want to do it. Because things that you actually want to do, oh my God, I'm there. Like, yo, let's figure it out. Like, then that's when you hit your team and like, yo, this person wants me to do X, Y, and Z, be X, Y, and Z. Let's figure it out. And I think that's actually what it is. Instead of saying I don't have time, to be like, I don't want to. That's this year right here is all about the no.
Wow.
Like that's really a boundary that I think that we are just afraid to set a lot. Like we're afraid to tell people no because all of us are people pleasers, in different ways. And we all want that validation from other humans. And we hate telling other humans no because we feel like if we tell them no, then they're not going to look at us the same or they're not going to respect us the same, or they're not going to, speak of us in a positive way. There's nothing wrong with telling somebody, no, I don't want to right now.
Well, it's good that you say that because I think, if I was to just watch you on the internet, I might not think Charlamagne the people pleaser. That's probably not like one of the things I would label you, know? And so I think people would say, no, he probably sets pretty firm boundaries. I bet he's really good at that. But is that even something that you've struggled with?
Oh, absolutely. I've been a people pleaser for a long time. And I mean, people pleasing doesn't always look like just allowing people to do whatever it is they want, you to do. Sometimes people pleasing looks like being overly aggressive in an interview. You know what I'm saying? Bombarding somebody with questions because you're worried about what the people watching are going to say about you. If you got a reputation, right, as this hard-hitting question asker, then you feel like you got to ask the hard-hitting questions. That's people pleasing. If you're doing it because you're worried about how other people are going to take it, how other people are going to consider it, how other people are going to view it, that is people pleasing.
It's interesting because you've been at this game a long time and you've had, people hating on you for things. You've had people loving on you for things. You've had some of the same people who used to love you hate you for things multiple times,
That's right.
And so I'm curious to you, like, what do you do to stop caring about the haters? Like, what do you do when you're getting backlash? Everybody seems to be talking shit. Nobody likes you. How do you deal with that?
You just genuinely got to not give a fuck. And I have two people in my life that gave me great pieces of advice that I always reference, even if, at times I didn't always feel what they were saying. Like I didn't apply it, right? My man Cadillac Jack, who along with my guy G-Spin put together the Breakfast Club. Cadillac Jack told me early on in the Breakfast Club, I need you to remember the rule of 10. What's the rule of 10? The rule of 10 is 3 people gonna like you, 3 people not gonna like you, 4 people don't even know what the fuck's going on. And that is very true in life. Like that is just the absolute truth. Like we are so concerned about what everybody thinks, and we think everybody is paying attention to us. 4 people don't even know what the hell is going on. And then the 3 people that like you, they gonna like you no matter what. The 3 people that don't like you, they not gonna like you no matter what. But guess what? The algorithm don't know the difference. So when the 3 people that like you are talking about you, great. When the 3 people that don't like you are talking about you, great. Your name is just all throughout the algorithm. My daddy used to always say to me, you're never as good as they say you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. That one, I've always understood. I've always been like right in the middle with that. And I mean, that's really just life, right? Like you have to be a very egotistical, narcissistic person to think that everybody likes you and to think that everybody's thinking about you, right? Like there is nobody on this planet, forget humans, there is nothing on this planet that everybody universally loves, not even God. Like, no, I want you to just think about that for a second. There is nothing, not even puppies, not ice cream, some of the purest things that you can think about. There is nothing on this planet that everybody universally loves. So for me, hey, man, I'm just happy I make you feel something. I really genuinely feel that. I'm just happy I make you feel something, because I would rather be, thought of in some way than to not be thought about at all.
This is a secret nobody shares. I've done thousands of deals, but until now, I've never shared the most valuable 10% publicly because I want to buy these businesses myself. Then I realized that if you guys buy the businesses, I get to do the deals with you. So this year at Main Street Millionaire Live, it is your chance to see our insider strategies. I'll teach you how we find, buy, and scale a business step by step with the frameworks that I literally use to buy all these businesses. So if you want to go from an aspiring owner to someone actually running a profitable business, join me. I'll give you my blueprint, and maybe we end up doing deals together.
You had this conversation with 50 Cent before he put out the documentary, and you had you basically were prescient about what was happening in the world. And now, I mean, it's not really therapy for 50, but watching him hold this level of revenge am I a sick person that I watch it and the memes that are I aspire to have this level of revenge that 50 Cent has?
Yeah.
I mean,
50 is a Cancer. I'm a Cancer. So I understand 50's level of petty.
You do?
I completely understand 50's level of petty. Plus, I'm privy to a lot of the whole backstory between him and somebody like Diddy. So I get it. People and it's funny. 50 is such an interesting person to me, and I've been having these conversations about 50 for years. I remember it started with, a long time ago, a couple of executives in the business was talking to me about 50, and they was like, why does he always got to go after Urban Ja? Why can't he just finally, God bless the dead, why can't he just let it go? I'm like, he got shot 9 times. They've had fist fights. He got stabbed by them. You wouldn't really let that go either. That's not something you could just, I don't even think a therapist could tell you just to let that go. And they were like, you know what? You're right. You know what I'm saying? So there's always, and I remember 50 said this one time. 50 was like, people always see when I punch, but they don't see when the person swung at me first.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that, I'm not saying everything, he does is justified, because I really don't know. But from the things that I've seen, I get it. I completely, understand it. And that's why you got to just be, don't offend the wrong person.
True.
Yeah, that's one of the 40 laws of power. Do not offend the wrong person, because you might have an enemy for life.
I would never want to, 50, just cut the podcast, edit it out.
And honestly, man, sometimes that is therapeutic within itself. Just saying fuck a person. I don't fuck with you. Who says we have to fuck with people?
Yeah, I know.
Who says that? We talk about that statement, money is the root of all evil. Who told us that we gotta forgive everybody? Who told us that, we gotta love everybody? Who said that? Sometimes it's fuck this person, and it's fuck this person for life, and I don't fuck with them. And people be like, man, you exhausting too much energy on that individual. Says who? And what if I want to exhaust this energy on this individual? What if I want, to do exactly what it is that I'm doing, and it makes me happy to do it? Who am I to tell that person that they're wrong? And by the way, whatever energy comes back to you from doing that, he got to deal with that. And I think he's fully aware.
Yeah.
I think he's fully aware of it, and it does not bother him in any way, shape, or form. And there's a certain level of freedom that I admire. Yeah. It is.
That smile when he does.
It's a certain, and by the way, I've had these conversations with him,
Have you?
On air, off air, because I've been he's one of the most interesting, people to me, just because he's a Cancer, and there's a lot of things that I relate to But
And he seems like a smart motherfucker.
oh, he's brilliant.
Like,
you don't
smart.
come out of Southside Jamaica, Queens, and achieve the things that he's achieved. You know, achieved things, lost things, got him back triple, and not even having success in multiple industries. That's what he don't get enough credit for. Yeah, he did his thing in music, but he went from an artist, started his own label, had successful artists under his label. Like, this is another. I'm glad we're having this conversation as well. But he's another person that I really look at, as a blueprint, because that's what you're supposed to do. And I remember, he says things that I remember. He said, I'm a general with G Unit, but I'm a soldier when I'm with Eminem and Dr. Dre. That right there is a jewel, because I hate when people say things like, yeah, but you work for a corporation, and I also own a lot of things on my as well. So what's the problem? Like, you can do both. And to watch him go from a talent, right, to starting his own record label, to having 4 or 5 successful artists, then having success with clothing, having success with a sneaker, then now in television and film. Do you know how hard that is?
Cannot imagine.
This guy has multiple franchises of various TV shows.
Yeah, and he lost it. That's the part that I think, like, coming back, like the mental fortitude to lose it, to be in bankruptcy, like you can make it. You can make it.
Absolutely.
But to lose it and get it back,
And to get it back.
Oof.
Yeah, and to and to remain himself throughout it all.
yeah.
I actually think sometimes he does that just to remind himself, I'm still me. Let me jump. I be feeling that sometimes, like, let me find somebody to really go at it with right now, just to remind myself I'm still me. Like, I don't know. I got a lot of respect and
I'm going to clip this out. And every
admiration for
time
50.
somebody talks shit, I'm going to re-listen to you. And I'm going to remember this.
But listen,
This is good.
don't listen to me though, because I'm a Cancer and I'm still dealing with my own stuff
know,
too. So
but I can't hold revenge. Like, I think it's a little healthy to be able to keep like a little bit of that edge.
Yeah, and I
just
like
let it go.
And I like anti-heroes.
Oh yeah.
That's my thing too. I like
Do you have one? Do you have like a Diddy? Like 50 has one? Do you have one? And you're like, yeah, fuck that guy right now. I won't say his name, but Dan.
Yeah, but I already won.
Oh shoot!
I won several. I done won several. I've had a few, but I've won. So it's like it's not the same. You know what I mean? There's nobody I really want to like stomp on them while they. I don't. And probably, you know what? Probably I've never had one to that level. I probably never had one to that level. I've never had nobody try to like physically. Like, well, I'm lying. I have had people send people to physically harm me, but it's not like a punch in the face. Like, you know what I mean? It's not like a shooting or a stabbing or anything like that. So, yeah. But when I say I like anti-heroes, I like the Batmans of the world. I like the, Tony Starks, the Deadpools, the Wolverines. You know what I mean? I like those type of anti-heroes. I'm the guy that, I root for the villain in movies sometimes, and to me, like, 50 is the ultimate hip hop anti-hero.
What about you? You've been doing Breakfast Club for many years now.
15.
You've been online for, how long have you been online before Breakfast? Now we're going to tell everybody how old you are, basically.
No, let me see. I mean, there's 2 different types. I'm old enough to remember that there's 2 different types of online, right?
What was the first type?
Because there was the MySpaces.
Oh, fuck, I remember that.
You know what I'm
like
saying?
the square of people. And you
That's
got
right.
Sent,
So there was the MySpaces. There was the Black Planets, but those weren't necessarily social media. Like, you might be in a forum or a chat room, I forgot what they used to call them, chat rooms or something back then. But yeah, I remember Twitter. I remember when I got on Twitter so early, I didn't even know that people replied to you. I remember when somebody said, you got to check your apps. I think it might have been Little Duval or somebody I was talking to. And I'm like, I don't really like Twitter, man. You just be on there talking to yourself. And he was like, what do you mean you be on there talking to yourself? I'm like, I post stuff, but it's just there. And he was like, man, you got to check your ads. I'm like, the ads? And then that's when you clicked on your ads and you started seeing everybody atting you. And you're like, oh,
But you're like,
okay.
I wish I never knew that existed. That's
Yeah.
how I feel about it some days.
I stopped going on Twitter in like 2018, 2019. But
healthy.
we got on, I think I got on Twitter in like 07, 08 maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, that place is a little wild.
Oh, it's not good for my mental health in no way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
But you got to know that though. We're all in verbally abusive relationships with our smartphones. Why would you go to a place where somebody's constantly telling you that you ain't shit? If you were married to a person like that, you wouldn't stick around in that relationship. If you were at a job and you had a boss talking to you like that, I don't think you would stick around in that relationship. So why do we do that with social media? Like, and I'm not, forget just the block features and the unfollowing folks. I'd rather not even go over there. Like, I'm a stern believer in if somebody be like, hey man, why don't you come over to the house? Or, we having this party, or we having a cookout. Who all over there? If they say the wrong people and the wrong energy, you not going. So why do we take our monkey asses over to social media, especially Twitter? Like, I don't want to be, I have no place, I have no desire to be over there.
That's really smart. A little social cleanse.
I have not been on this since 2018.
What about, like, you've probably changed a lot since 2018. Like, I imagine 15 years online. Are there some things that you have said before, like back in the day, you're like, this is true, I believe it with all of my being, and now, fuck, I was wrong.
I remember talking to Malcolm Gladwell one time, and Malcolm Gladwell said to me, there's a lot of things that I wrote in books like The Outliers that I don't necessarily believe anymore.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh my God, like that kind of threw me for a loop. But then I had to think to myself, like, just because he wrote it in that book and he has maybe evolved and learned a lot more information and it's taken him someplace else, doesn't mean that somebody else isn't going to pick up that book right now and it's going to meet them where they are.
Do you think about your books that way? Like, when I was going back through and I hadn't read one, I didn't realize you had multiple books. Mm-hmm. And so when when I went back and I was reading, so I had read Black Privilege. And then when I went through and I was looking at Get Honest or Die Lying.
Yep, that's my last one, my third one. Yep.
I didn't realize that you had such a focus on mental health. And I don't know why. I guess I had seen Breakfast Club and I'd thought of your persona a lot there. But I like asking you these questions because when I think about the person who's listening here, I'm always thinking about them, maybe a little less than the guest. Like, what does Charlemagne have that I feel like every human listening is just going to it's going to blow their mind this week and it's going to help their life somehow. And that's kind of how I think about you. It's like you have this amazing career, but it's mostly like, what do you got that they need? And when I think about your career in particular, there's a couple ways I want to go with it that I think could be really helpful with people. One, conversations, we're having less of them. You have them deeply. And even with people I don't know if you don't like them or not, but maybe you don't agree with everything. Maybe you sometimes don't like them. And I guess one of the questions I have for you is like, what do you do when you have a conversation with somebody you don't like or agree with?
You just agree to disagree. Like, I don't think, I don't know if there's too many people I've had conversations with who I don't like because I don't know them personally not to like them. Yeah, I may not like their ideologies. I may not like, some of their worldviews, but I don't know them personally to not like them. And I mean, that's what conversation is for. And just because you have a conversation with a person doesn't mean you're going to end up liking them at the end of the conversation. But I feel like as human beings, we should, respect each other enough to discuss. And even if we discuss and debate and, argue and, we might even get to yelling in an interview. But I think that's just what happens when you are having a real, healthy, honest conversation with somebody. So I think this is our job. Like, I'm a radio personality. I'm a podcast person. I'm a media personality, right? Just like you're a media personality. If I choose to invite you into my space and have a conversation with you, it is ridiculous to just then say, you know what, I'm going to slam dunk on this person. I'm inviting this person in my space just to slam dunk on them. If you get dunked on in the midst of the conversation, that's different. But I invited you for a conversation. So have the conversation and see where it goes.
Do you get a lot of comments online like, why are you having this person on?
All the time.
All the time. What do you say to the people who won't have a conversation with somebody? Like, what if somebody's listening right now, and this happens around the holidays, probably good timing for it. They're like, I'm not fucking going home because Aunt Becky loves insert one political party, and I don't want to talk to them.
I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world. And the reason I think that's the most ridiculous thing in the world because, politics are very fleeting, right? In the next few years, hopefully, right, if we still have free and fair elections, they'll be electing, somebody else. And there'll be a lot of damage done because of the current administration, but the way people felt will kind of be a thing of the past, right? Maybe. You know, I mean, you know, Maya Angelou said that, you know, people will forget what you did, they'll forget what you said, they'll never forget how you made them feel. So maybe people will forget about it. But man, I've been alive long enough to have seen how this goes, you know, before. And I mean, that's your family member. Don't blame who's in the White House on you not wanting to talk to your family member. You never liked this person to begin with. Like, cut it out. Like, because if you could just cut me off or cut somebody off based on who they voted for, you never really liked that person. This goes back to what we were saying about time. Don't blame time for you not wanting to do something. You don't like this individual. You never really did, and now you feel like you got a valid excuse to not talk to that person anymore. And I feel like, you know, when it comes to just us as media personalities, listen, I've seen media personalities, you know, say, I don't know why, you know, Charlamagne talks to these kind of people, or why the Breakfast Club talks to these kind of people. They don't say that to anybody else but us. Like, they don't say that to Jake Tapper. Right? Historically, they didn't say that to people like, you know, Diane Sawyer, Barbara Walters, Oprah Winfrey. I grew up in the era of watching Donahue have the Grand Wizard of the KKK on. Yeah. Right? And I grew up in the era of, you know, Donahue would host, not just Donahue, everybody would talk to people that they didn't necessarily agree with. Right? Nobody said anything back then. So why is it such a thing now? And I would tell all of these media personalities, you know, when you say things like, man, I would have never done that. That's why you're not me. That's just the reality of the situation. That's why you're not me. So don't ask yourself why you don't get the things that I get, you know, per se. Yeah. Because you don't do the things that I do. I have no problem sitting down having conversations with people that I may not agree with. But that's just because of the great personalities that I saw before me. They were doing the same thing. They used to do specials where they would go talk to Charles Manson while he was in prison. They talked to Jeffrey Dahmer. He ate people. Like, and you're not going to talk to somebody just because they got a different
Republican.
Republican? That's crazy. That's crazy to me. I'm also old enough to remember when people hated guys like George W. Bush. Now everybody loves George, but they love watching George Bush with Michelle Obama, and it's so cute, such a great relationship. I remember when y'all were calling George Bush the Antichrist.
That's true. Well, or if you go back to history, Democrats were actually Republicans. Republicans were actually Democrats. Like the whole party, they've changed back and forth.
They had different ideologies at the time, though. So
totally. But it's kind of wild to see, you know, what used to be a Democrat today was a Republican at one point, and vice versa. It's like we put these hard lines on it. But it's a really interesting point because you're right. I actually went to journalism school. I always wanted to be a journalist. I ended up in business and finance for all these other reasons. I guess we've come back. But I used to love Walter Cronkite for that reason.
Yeah. I mean, there was a time where you would want to get that interview. Like, yo, we saw freaking Barbara Walters went and spoke to Fidel Castro. Like, those were the type of things that we constantly saw the greats do. So who are we to be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Nah, that's so if not you, who? And why not talk to that person and ask that person the questions that, you know, the world may want to know?
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about like the business side for a second. One, congratulations. Amazing news recently on a huge deal you did. It's so cool.
Thank you. Re-signed with iHeartMedia.
Yeah. And I think like, not even to get into details on that, but like, it's really cool to see somebody do an incredible deal and do a re-signing and have it go really public and have it be in this new age of media, you know, which is, I think typically deals like that, you had to be with CNN or CNBC or some huge network. And now this is kind of you know, you could move Breakfast Club, Charlamagne, anywhere, and you're the network now. So it's really cool to see. Congratulations.
Yeah. And I mean, even salute to iHeart. You know, I've been with iHeart for 15 years, you know, started off as a talent, you know, then became a partner when I created the Black Effect Podcast Network, which is, you know, by far the largest podcast network, you know, for Black podcasts. I think right now we got like 50 to 60 podcasts but, you know, we wanted to create a space that was specifically for Black podcasters because that didn't exist. Like, I'm the type of person, I like to look around the marketplace and, see what's missing from the marketplace. And that was something that was missing to me. I loved what Bill Simmons was doing with The Ringer. I loved, watching what they were doing with Smartless. I loved watching what they were doing with Gimlet. But I saw a lot of these black creators who were doing two things, right? They were putting their podcast out, but it was like video first. So their videos were getting like tremendous views, but the audio wasn't necessarily reflecting that.
Yeah, that's hard to
We all know that the money is in the audio.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, what if we created this network, got these individuals who already have these, podcasts, put us, all under one umbrella and use iHeart sales team to really, really pump their audio, because iHeart is the biggest, conglomerate when it comes to audio. Nobody does audio better than iHeart. I'm not saying that because I work with them. I'm saying that because it's the truth, right? So radio, podcasting, nobody does audio better than iHeart. And man, if I could show y'all the data of some of these podcasts who had these big video numbers, but the audio numbers weren't necessarily matching the video, and how when they partnered with Black Effect and iHeart, how we were able to get those audio numbers booming to the point where we're at like 11 million, 12 million audio downloads a month. Wow. And that makes, Black Effect, one of the biggest podcast networks out there. Like, that's very rare air to be, have a network getting 11 million, 12 million audio downloads a month. And, things like that is what makes you a lot more valuable to, whatever company you're with.
What's interesting, I kind of want to talk about that for a second. I don't know about you, but I had a long period, and I'm thinking through it right now, but where I'm Latina and a chick, and it always bothered me when somebody would reach out to me and say like, hey, we want to talk to you. You're a female CEO. We'd love to have a female CEO come speak about XYZ. Or like, you're a Latina CEO. Come speak. And I kind of would be like, one, if it was female CEO, I'd be like, I don't know what my vagina has to do with it. Like, I'm just in charge of this business, and I happen to have that anatomy, you know? And I remember I did write that in one email, and then one of my execs was like, maybe we could not do that. But I kind of like took it personal. I had a little chip on my shoulder. Maybe I have less of one now, but I'm curious for you, like when people say like, Charlemagne, Black CEO, come speak. Like, are you like, yeah, fuck yeah, because I represent all these people? Or are you like, who cares? I'm a CEO. I just happen to be Black. Like, how do you think about that?
That's a great question. I don't, when I pull up the Chick-fil-A, it don't bother me that, they specialize in chicken sandwiches. I'm pulling up to Chick-fil-A because they specialize in chicken sandwiches, or if I want to go to, pizza, if I want pizza that night, I'm not going to go to a burger spot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, for me, it don't bother me, because we are unicorns, because we can't sit here and act like we don't understand the country that we live in. We live in the country called America. America is, a country that was founded on white supremacy. Like, just call it what it is, right? So like, that is what people think of when they think of America. That's what they've always presented to us, right? Like a white man. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a problem being a quote unquote unicorn in this space. If you are a woman CEO who's done great things, hey, sadly, we live in a country that doesn't think women can do amazing things. Like, this is a country that, just gave women the right to vote in our lifetime, right? So how they kind of already perceive women. So when they look at you as a woman CEO, they're looking at you like, damn, I can't believe she did all. I can't believe she got that done. Why? Because you're a woman. Same thing with a Black person. Why? I can't believe that a Black person could achieve those kind of things, because of all of the things that this country has thrown at us historically. So things like that do not bother me. If you want me to come out here and be the bearded woman at the circus, or like, I don't have no problem with that, because I feel like, by the time I sit down with you and have a conversation, you're going to say to yourself, I understand why that person is in the position that they're in.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think culture and race I don't think about it as much now, because I'm like a little bit of a spreadsheet nerd, but, as I've gotten on the internet more, and then people, of course, they notice you. They're like, yeah, he's Black. And yeah, she's a chick. I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess that's part of the equation.
Yeah,
whatever.
You're stating the obvious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm like, all right. But then I realized, man, actually there was a bunch of stuff when I was growing up that we didn't actually do that I think hurt us monetarily and hurt and by us, I guess I mean women or Latinos in this instance. Like when I was growing up, you know how they say you don't talk about sex, religion, politics?
Politics, yeah.
For Latinos, religion's cool. Jesus is all around. Like everybody can talk about Jesus. But you don't talk about sex. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about money. Like money's like nobody talks about that as a Latino. And I think for that reason, it was harder for me to make money, like growing up, you know, like because I was like, no, we don't talk about it. It's not good. It's private. Rich people kind of suck because you had to be bad to get it. And so I had all these ingrained narratives. And I'm curious, and like in Black culture, is it similar at all? Can you talk about money in the same way? Are there like things that hold Black people back monetarily that you're like, why the fuck do we do that and don't do that anymore?
You know, that's a great question. I don't like to answer questions on behalf of the whole Black race because Black people are not, you know, monolithic.
Yep.
And, you know, there's a lot of Black people who don't like me. So I don't want them to think that I'm speaking. I'm speaking for them. But from my perspective, yeah, a lot of conversations like financial literacy did not happen, you know, in the Black community. Like at least in my community. I don't want to say in the Black community, at least in my circumference. Like, you know, my father was definitely an entrepreneur, right? Like my father, you know, he owned a fish market when I was young. So I would be there hanging out, you know, working. My father also did construction. So he was an entrepreneur, even though he did work for a construction company for a period of time. But for the most part, you know, all the money he made was, you know, doing things independently. So that was always kind of my mindset. But nobody taught me about, you know, taxes and, you know, high yield savings accounts and stocks. Like I didn't learn about any of that stuff till I got in my late 30s, you know, early 40s. I think the not talking about money thing is interesting though, because of course none of us wanted to be broke, right? That's what led, you know, guys like me to start selling dope, right? Because, you know, you don't want to be broke, but money was never my motivation, ever. A lot of the times, even when I started, you know, selling dope, I was just doing that because the people around me were doing it. And, you know, you would get clowned for being broke, but I never needed money to really get anything that y'all got. Like a lot of times these guys are, you know, trying to get money to impress women and things like that. I wasn't the best looking, but I could hold a really good conversation. I could make you laugh. Like they, you know,
check.
You know what I mean? There was a lot. The girls that y'all was, you know, trying to get, I was getting just being my natural broke self, right? So it's like money was never my motivation. What was my motivation was wanting to realize my full potential as a person on this planet.
Even
like,
when you were younger, you were
even
never
when I was
scared
younger.
about being broke or not having money? That wasn't part of your equation. Were you religious when you were young?
Yeah, I grew up, my mother was a Jehovah's Witness. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness. My grandmother was a Baptist. My father was a Jehovah's Witness too till he got this fellowship. And then, you know, he started studying Islam. So I was getting hit from all different angles. I had my grandmother who was a Baptist. My mother was a Jehovah's Witness. So, you know, my father who was studying Islam. So I was reading Watchtowers, Awakes, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Like I had it all. But there was different things that motivated me to want to be successful. Like when I heard Biggie Smalls say, being broke at 30 give a brother the chills. Like, right? Or when TLC made No Scrubs. I don't want no scrub. A scrub is a guy sitting in his best friend's ride, you know, on the passenger side, trying to holler at me. Or when Outkast and Goody Mob made, I want to get up. You need to get up, get out and get something. Don't let the days of your life pass by. You need to get up, get out and get something. You know, don't spend all your days getting high because, you know, you and I got to do for you and I. When you hear that, that's not necessarily about money. That's just about, brother, you know, get up and do something with your life, figure it out. And even back then, man, I had no problem. I thought about going in the military. You know, there was a time I wanted to work at UPS because, you know, I had an uncle who worked at UPS. Like, and same thing with the military. I had my mother's first cousin, his name was Bruce. He was in the military. So I was just looking at all of these different things that could potentially get me off this dirt road in Moncks Corner, South Carolina. It wasn't necessarily always entertainment. Like I had no problem living what people call the so-called American dream. Like you just figure out something, you know, that can make you some money to be able to afford a nice place to stay, have some food on the table. And if you want to have a family one day, you can do that. But, you know, it wasn't necessarily, I want to be rich. I want to be famous. I want to be this, you know, multi-millionaire. You know, it wasn't necessarily that. Like I just wanted to not waste the life that God gave me on this planet.
Yeah, it's true. You have talked a lot about God on your podcast, in your books, here. What is your relationship with God? And like, how do you use that in your day-to-day?
Man, I'm only sitting here because of God. You know, whatever you want to call him, Jehovah, you know, Allah, you know, Jesus Christ. Like, I'm literally in this position that I'm in right now because from the time that I can remember, from day one, there was a higher power, you know, guiding me. I know we talk about having like praying grandmothers and, you know, praying mothers. I really, really had that. Like I was a kid going to field service every Saturday morning, right? So, you know, as long as I can remember, I've been a praying person, and not just, you know, praying and asking God for guidance and direction, and like literally feeling that presence of a higher power with me. That higher power literally guiding me and directing me and telling me to go do X, Y, and Z. Go do this, go do that. Like literally. And, you know, it was the times where I didn't listen to that voice the way I should have, you know, that caused, you know, so-called negative things to happen to me. And the reason I say so-called negative things is because I feel like everything is just a part of this process called life, right? The so-called good, the so-called bad, everything that happens to you while we're living this thing called life is just part of the process that led you and I to both be sitting here, you know, in this moment. But I just feel like the whole way through, it's just been God. And I mean, I remember last year, I said to God, I was praying, meditating, and I said to God, God, I am ready for every single thing you have planned for me on this planet. I said, I want it all. And I know people might hear that and they might think, you know, monetary things are just the good things that come with success. No, I want to experience every single thing that God wants me to experience on this planet. Because I truly believe that. I truly believe that, you know, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So I don't care what it is. I take good news, so-called good news, the same way I take so-called bad news. Because it's just like, all right, well, what God got planned for me next? Like, you know, even today, you might get some news from a business perspective, and you like, I didn't want that to happen, but God clearly has something else planned. So I'm open for it.
So interesting. I have this line. I guess I was raised similar to you. I was raised with a lot of religious influence. It didn't permeate, or it did negatively at some point, and I felt like I had to break that. I became sort of an agnostic, atheist. Then I came back to faith. But there's a line that I always think of by this. She was actually a feminist back in the day, Emma Bombeck, and she has this line that I love, which is, she says, "When I stand before God at the end of my days, I hope to be able to say, I have not one drop left. I used every single thing that you gave me."
Yes.
And it every time I'm struggling, I think about that.
Yes.
And I was wondering for you, you're such a man of you read, you know, multiple books a week and many a month, and you're such a man, like, you remember all these quotes. Are there quotes that you live by that you, like, when your faith is struggling, that you repeat in your head?
Yeah, I got two, and these are ones that I actually made up. You know, I deal with really bad panic attacks, right? Like I've got a handle on them, you know, in my more recent years. But like when I was young, I used to deal with like these really severe panic attacks, and when I didn't know what they were, when I didn't know that I was having actual panic attacks, I would always repeat this mantra. I would say, I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ. I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ. I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ. Fuck Satan, fuck Satan, fuck Satan. So I would say, I love Jehovah God and his son, Jesus Christ 3 times, and I would say, fuck Satan 3 times. And the reason I would do that is because, you know, when you read in the Bible, in the book of Job, you know, Job's wife kept telling Job, hey, curse God and die, right? Why don't you just curse God and die? So I used to always be like, why would I curse God? Like I'm not gonna ever curse God and die. So let me just curse Satan, because I feel like this what I now know to be anxiety, this panic attack, is him. So I would say, I love Jehovah God and his son Jesus Christ. Fuck Satan. And I can't even front. It would bring me back to center in a real way. I mean, now when I've done a lot more work on myself, so I do meditation and things like that. So I understand mantras, right? Like you understand the mantra when you're counting your beads, when you're meditating. You understand how that can bring you back to center. I was doing that back then and didn't even know it. And my other motto that I always say, yo, keep God first, stay humble, keep working. Anything that happens in my life, I say keep God first, stay humble, keep working. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because, one thing I've realized over the last few weeks, because, we're taping this like the first week of January, right?
Yep.
I've watched a lot of people, like when certain things happen, when certain, like you just talked about, my new deal with iHeart. I've watched a lot of people have conversations about that.
Yeah.
And man, it really makes me realize how much people don't believe in God and hard work.
Yeah, isn't that true?
Because anytime you get to a certain level of success, they think that you had to get there by some nefarious means. They think that you got to be in the Illuminati, or you busting it open on the casting couch. Men and women, by the way. It ain't just women that they think. It ain't just women they think is busting it open on the casting couch. Men and women they think is busting it open on the casting couch. And it just makes me realize how many people don't believe in God and hard work. Because if you believed in God and hard work, you wouldn't look at somebody else and just say, they only got that because they did some bullshit. You would say, man, I've been watching that person for decades now. I've been doing radio for 28 years, like literally 28 years. Even if you don't count South Carolina, if you've been watching me from the time I started with Wendy, it's been 20 years. You've been watching that person for 20 years. You've literally watched that person grow. You watched them evolve. You watched ups. You watched downs. You watched them go through fire. You watched all of these different things. But the one thing you can't say is that person wasn't consistent and that person wasn't working hard. And then when that person, achieves something, you want to attribute it. You want to give the devil credit for that?
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to give God and hard work any credit whatsoever. So what happens when you achieve a tremendous level of success?
Yeah.
Should we just say, oh, that person only got that because of Satan? That person only got that because they were busting it open on the Catholic couch? I don't even think people understand the narratives they create that will eventually come back and bite them in the ass as well. So yes, I give God all praises, and I am only here because God has been guiding me all of these years.
It's so true. I remember one of my early mentors said to me, if you hate rich people, then how do you think you're ever going to be rich? Mm-hmm. And I never hated. I'm not really a hateful kind of person. Sometimes I wish. Like Sierra was here the other week on a podcast. I was like, what do you do, when you have a hater? And she's a woman of faith. She's incredible. I've really come to respect her a lot. And she had such a good line. She's like, I give it up to God. I don't worry about it. But she's like, I'd be keeping receipts though, And she's like, I'd be keeping some names. And I was like, I love that line. Like I remember, I like forgive. I'll remember though. But I think what happens with a lot of us is like, isn't it weird how we're wired from being young? Like sometimes I'll be on a stage in a business thing and I'll say to the audience, blank is the root of all evil. What's the root of all evil? And they'll just respond, money.
Yeah.
When did we learn that? It's not actually that in the Bible. It is the love of money is the root of all evil. Mm-hmm. But like, how are we programmed to think that? And so that's when I start realizing maybe it's not always their fault. Like the people who hate on you with this iHeartMedia deal, it hurts my heart a little bit. I'm like, I know right where you are. It's that you still think that money is the root of all evil, and you've never questioned why that programming is in your brain. And you don't know where it came from.
Oh, I know. I mean, I know where it came from.
Where do you think?
It came from being broke. Like when you broke, you're going to be disgruntled. When you're broke, you're going to be upset about that, and you're going to say things like "money is the root of all evil." People will say things to justify why they're not in the position that they want to be in. But man, I'm gonna be honest. I know this is gonna sound crazy. I genuinely, truly don't care about money. I care about being happy. I tell folks all the time, man, what is success? Success is you're doing whatever it is that you want to do and it makes you happy.
Yeah.
I know people right now that, are making tens of millions of dollars and they hate their jobs or they hate, what it is that they're doing. So is that actually success? I know people who are in South Carolina right now, making $75,000 a year, $100,000 a year, but they got a roof over their head. They got food on the table. They can take a vacation every now and then when they want to, and they are genuinely happy.
Yep.
Success should be rooted in happiness, not in a monetary amount of, like this should just be rooted in, are you happy doing what it is that you're doing? I am happy doing what it is that I'm doing. I love what it is that I do. I love waking up in the morning to go do morning radio. This is literally what I used to pray for and what I used to dream about. When I was in, Charleston, South Carolina at Z93 Jams in 1999, I was praying for times like this. I wanted to be the super jock. You heard the people I named prior, the Tom Joyners, the Doug Bates, like those were the nationally syndicated radio personalities that a whole generation was listening to. I love being in the middle of one of my unanswered prayers.
Oof.
So there's no dollar amount that can make me any more happier than I already have been. I'm in the Radio Hall of Fame. I'm literally in the Radio Hall of Fame. I've been successful and happy, not because of any money, but because I chose to do something, and God allowed me the wherewithal and the skill to navigate my way to that point.
So one of the things that actually brought me back to you online is you had this post about the trades. And you were talking about
the trades?
Yeah, like plumbing, HVAC, and blue collar.
Got you.
And I was like, oh man, I totally agree. And you were basically saying, I think, in so many words, like blue collar jobs are just as important and powerful as white collar jobs.
More important.
There you go. So I want to talk about this with you. Like, what do you think about university versus trade school? What do you think about blue collar versus white collar? What would you say to a lot of my audience is a lot of blue collar people who are working their way up? Like, give me your take.
I think, number one, you should do whatever it is that you're called to do. But I do think that sometimes we love to push people to what we think is the new trendy thing, right? Right now it's AI. Prior to that, it was like, just social media and the internet in general, right? Like you got to learn how to code and all of these different things. Sure. I do agree with that. But man, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You still gonna need somebody to come through this building and install the plumbing. You still gonna need somebody to come through this building and install the HVAC. This building is going to need, electricians, right? Like you're going to need those people with those skill sets. So I think what the future should look like is people who decide they want to go to trade school and then using some of this new technology to make their jobs easier. It's the next generation of millionaires and, tens of millionaires, maybe even billionaires are going to come from people who know how to merge the two worlds. It's funny, I was having a conversation with one of my guys about this, and, they were like, why you always be telling people to go to trade school? Trade school, those are the black jobs that Donald Trump was talking about. I'm like, those are the jobs that pay green. That's not a black job. Like, no. We are not in this room right now without anybody who understands how to do things with their hands. Like every single piece of equipment in this room, the lighting, everything, the bathroom I used earlier was because of a blue collar worker. We can't exist without them. They make the world go around. So yeah, I do encourage, a lot of people to go to trade school because everybody don't necessarily want to go to, a university and get a degree. And I don't have a problem with that either. Some people want to go to trade school and, do that for a couple of years and come home and start making money immediately. I got, friends and family members back home in South Carolina who've been installing HVAC and, doing electrical work for 30 years. Ain't missed a meal, ain't missing no paycheck. They not complaining about, recessions, nothing. They are making their money. Lawn care services, like there is so many, blue collar jobs that people are making six figures on right now.
And you actually, from what I understand, you have an endowment or you help with education as well in South Carolina.
Yeah,
right?
I have my mother went to South Carolina State University. I have an honorary degree from South Carolina State University. And I started this endowment fund called the Ford Family Scholarship. And salute to, a woman I call another mother of mine. Her name is Nicole Brevard. She was somebody who was instrumental in, me even, starting that scholarship fund at South Carolina State University. And it is for people who want to major in communications, of course, because I'm a media personality, English, because my mother's an English teacher, or anything in the mental health profession. And I'm working on something right now that I think is going to really benefit people as far as like trade school is concerned, because I want to give people incentive, to go to trade school. And a lot of people can't afford trade school either. So it's like, let's help some of those brothers and sisters who want to, go to trade school as well. And I'm called right now to salute a young lady named Jordan. Jordan the Welder is her name on Instagram. The reason I'm saluting her is because she's like a Breakfast Club super listener. Like, she supports us in everything that we do. Like, I do the Black Effect Podcast Festival in Atlanta, every year. I think we're on our third or fourth year, and she always comes to it, but she's a welder. And I just find her fascinating because she lives a great life. She's married, right? And she's a welder, and she makes a great living. Like I said, she comes and supports us at everything that we do, and she's a welder. So it's like, we don't always have to, run to entertainment or athletics, to live a good life.
No, in fact, there's way more people that are plumbers making 100K than podcasters.
And we
which is
need
a
them.
Crazy thing to think about.
Yes, and we need them.
Order of magnitude.
Listen, we need them. Like, I hate, man, that's why I always say treat the CEO the same way you treat the custodian.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, in a lot of ways, the custodian is more important or just as important. Could you work in a building that was disgusting?
No, absolutely.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you heard me. I was like, I heard a bit of noise back. Like,
you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you knew that the bathrooms in this building was disgusting, you might not ever come here ever again.
Yeah.
So that's why people like the custodians and stuff are important, because they make our lives so much easier. So we got to constantly find ways to make their lives easier as well.
Oh, it's so true. Like, one of my favorite people, I opened the book with him, is this guy, Wayne Huizinga. I'm really bummed that he died before I got to meet him. But he was
God bless the dead.
Yeah, he was a garbage man. That's how he started. He was a dropout from college. He went to the military. He became a garbage man, driving a truck. Then he figured out, well, maybe I could buy one truck and I could start my little route. And that route turned into waste management, which became a multi-billion-dollar business, and then Blockbuster that he started and sold before it went sideways, and then owned a bunch of sports teams.
What?
Garbage dude. And so it's
Wow.
like, all around us, I think the problem, like the lie that we were told, is that you have to stay the garbage man when you start as the garbage man. It's like, yeah, start cleaning the toilets. That's sick. But then how much easier is it to climb the ladder from the guy who did the cleaning to the next rung, to the next rung, to the next
That's
rung,
right.
if you're competent, and then
That's right.
own the motherfucker.
That's right.
I'm on board.
And by the way, even if you don't want to do that, that's cool too.
Yeah, that's true.
There's parking attendants that I look forward to seeing every day. Cause when I see them, they screaming my name. I scream their name.
yeah.
Like, some of them might be singing songs. Like, they might be talking to me about stuff that we was talking about on the air. Those are the people I like to talk to. What do we know? We've been doing.
I do a lot of this.
Yeah, like, I like talking to working class people, because I still consider myself a working class person. I just do a different line of work. But I used to work at Taco Bell. I did telemarketing. I worked at a clothing store. Me and my now wife used to work at a clothing store in the mall when we was, teenagers. I did all of those things, but you really get to see what's going on in the world when you have conversations with working class people. They're the ones that can help you keep your boots on the ground.
Let's say we got one of them listening right now. And they get to listen to you, and they've come to the end of this podcast, and you get to send them off. Like, what are you saying to the person who's on their climb, figuring it out? What would be the advice you would give them today? The thought that you would leave them with?
The first thing I would say to them is thank you. I am grateful that you decided to listen to the Codie Sanchez podcast with Charlamagne the God. Thank you. And thank you for, whatever it is that you're doing every day that makes our lives, better. And I would tell them, and the reason I'm saying thank you is because I would tell them, make sure that they have a attitude of gratitude as well. Because, man, when you wake up every day and you are genuinely grateful for where you are, like you say, God, thank you, man. God, I'm so thankful and grateful to be number one, just alive, but then number two, to be able to do what it is that I'm currently doing, you will constantly get blessed with more. I think that is what truly makes an individual happy, right? When you have true gratitude for where you are in life, you know, at the moment. Like, you can't wake up every day and hate what it is that you do. If you wake up every day and hate what it is that you do, please change what it is that you do. like you have to. Like, you cannot wake up every day and hate what it is that you do, because you're gonna project that negative energy onto everybody. Like, don't be the garbage man with an attitude, right? Don't be the person working at the fast food restaurant with the attitude. And same goes for us. Like, if I wake up every morning with a negative attitude, I'm gonna get on that radio and I'm gonna project that onto the people. And trust me, I've been that before. I've been in that space where I've been that before, and God had to remind me, quick, I can take this away from you. You do know that, right? I can take this away from you in 2 seconds. So you asked for this. You prayed for this. This is what you wanted. This is what you worked hard towards. How dare you come up here every morning and project what you got going on, you know, negatively to the people. That's one of the reasons I started going to therapy. And when I started going to therapy back in 2016, I would literally come on the radio and tell everybody that I'm going to therapy every Friday at 3:00. I started talking to the people about what it was I was dealing with, because I owed that to them. They can't turn on the radio and hear me going off on somebody, or hear me maybe badgering somebody in an interview. I'm like, damn, why is this person doing, why is he coming like that? It might be entertaining to some. Some might be like, what is up with this dude? I started to go do the work on myself because I wasn't happy with what was going on with me internally. And so me coming on the radio and expressing that, you know, to other people and tell people I'm going to therapy and trying to get a handle on my anxiety and bouts of depression and things like that, that became a whole movement of its own. And that just started with me being honest with my listeners and not wanting to take for granted the blessing that God had gave me, because I know he could take it away from me in a heartbeat. And that was 2016. So that was 6 years in the Breakfast Club. We still here 9 years later. I continue to grow. I continue to evolve. So clearly, you know, I did something right.
Last thing for you, like, what should people be following you on this year? I know you're working on a million things, but like, where should they be? Where are you like, I'm fucking excited. Tune into this, people.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Well, the Breakfast Club is coming to Netflix this year. Yeah. So, you know,
That's sick. So open up your TV.
Open up your TV. Yeah, like right now, if you can go to Netflix right now, type in Breakfast Club, and you'll see it pop up. I think they say the video podcast start on January 26th. So you can set your reminders for that. Yeah. And I mean, you know, a lot of people are having conversations about, you know, Netflix, and they're saying Netflix is trying to compete with YouTube. I don't think Netflix is necessarily trying to compete with YouTube. I just think Netflix is doing what all of these, you know, streaming platforms are doing. Let's bring on content that people want to watch, and let's just see if we can, you know, get as many eyeballs over here and have them, you know, spending their time and attention, you know, with us. So I just think, you know, it's dope for the podcasting game, right? To see where podcasting has grown and where it's evolved to where, you know, a premium, you know, network like Netflix, you know, wants to have us on. And man, I just hope to do more of that. Like, you know, I want to like sitting here talking to you, you have a hit podcast, but what else does Codie Sanchez want to do? Codie Sanchez might have a scripted show in mind based off her life or something. Codie Sanchez might want to do documentaries. Those are the things that I'm thinking about with all of these streaming platforms. You know, Netflix has gotten the game in a real way. I think Apple should follow suit. I think Peacock should follow suit. I think Amazon should follow suit, and just tap in with us, right? These new media personalities who, you know, have a lot of different content and IP that we can bring to the table. So that's one thing, you know, Breakfast Club on Netflix. I also have a book imprint called Black Privilege Publishing, and 2026 is going to be a huge year for us because we have Arsenio Hall's memoir.
Oh, I fucking love him.
Yeah, which comes out in April. He's been one of my entertainment inspirations forever. You know, I have 4 huge entertainment inspirations. It's Jay-Z,